the powers and the functions of the 6 existing regional development bodies already. The bill standardizes the functions of regional development authorities, subject to the unique areas of operation of each regional development authority. It further standardizes the membership of the boards of each regional development authority to 11 members in line with the best practices in corporate governance. On the statement on delegation of legislative powers and limitations of the fundamental rights and freedoms, this bill, that is in its second reading, whose debate was interrupted yesterday, delegates legislative powers to the Cabinet Secretary responsible for the regional development authorities to make regulations for the carrying into effect of its provisions. And the bill does not limit any fundamental rights or freedoms. On whether this bill, the Regional Development Authorities Bill number 7 of 2023, concerns the county governments, the bill affects the functions of the county governments as set out in the 4th schedule of the 2010 Constitution. And the enactment of this bill shall occasion additional expenditure of public funds. This is the first bill that the members of parliament are expected to resume their debate today, having interrupted yesterday. Also, there is a couple of motions by the Chairperson Departmental Committee on the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity on the compliance to Article 54(2) of the Constitution, that is regarding employments of persons with disabilities in the public institutions. And this House adopts the report of the Committee on the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity on the compliance to Article 54(2) of the Constitution, that is regarding the employments of persons with disabilities in public institutions. This was laid on the table of the House this morning. Also, the motion on the report of the Auditor General on financial statements of selected state corporations, that is by the Chairpersons of Public Investments Committee on Commercial Affairs and Energy. The House adopts the report of the Public Investments Committee on Commercial Affairs and Energy on its examinations of the reports of the Auditor General of the financial statements of selected state corporations. It was laid on the table of the House. That's on 6th December last year, 2023. Also, there is a motion on the reports of the Auditor General on the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 5 constituencies in the county of Vihiga. That is by the Chairperson, Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee. The House adopts the report of the Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the financial statements for the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 5 constituencies in Vihiga County for the financial years of 2013, 2014, 2014, 2015, and 2015, 2016, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 14 February this year, that is last month. Also, the motion on the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Kenya Slum Upgrading Low-Cost Housing and Infrastructure Trust Fund. That is by the Chairpersons for the Special Funds and the Accounts Committee. And the House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Kenya Slum Upgrading Low-Cost Housing and Infrastructure Trust Fund for the financial year that of 2017-2018 to 2021-2022, and the Alcoholic Drinks Control Fund for the financial year 2017 to 2018, that was laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 18th October last year, 2023. Also, the motion on the inquiry into the maize flour subsidy program for the financial year 2022-2023. That by the Chairperson's Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. So the House adopts the second report of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock on the inquiry into the maize flour subsidy program. That is for the financial year 2022 and 2023. Those was laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 27th February 2024. And the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Gladys Bose, has walked in for the third session afternoon sitting of Wednesday that is expected to commence shortly. This is the Parliamentary Broadcast Unit in collaborations with KBC, and I now hand over you to the plenary. Let's listen in.
Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. You may proceed. First order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, this communication relates to the decision of the House of the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill, Senate Bills number 6 of 2022. Honorable members, as you are all aware, the House on Tuesday, 12 March 2024, rejected the motion for the second reading of the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill, Senate Bills number 6 of 2022. The import of the Assembly's rejection of the said bill essentially remits the bill to a mediation committee in line with the Standing Order 149(1)B. Honorable members, Article 113 of the Constitution requires that whenever a bill is referred to a mediation committee, the speakers of the Houses of Parliament shall appoint an equal number of members from both houses to attempt to develop a version of the bill for consideration of the Houses of Parliament. In this regard, honorable members, having consulted with the leader of Majority Party and the leader of Minority Party, I have appointed the following members to represent the National Assembly in the mediation committees to consider the said bill. 1, the Honorable David Gikaria, CBS, MP and co-chairperson. 2, the Honorable Charles Kamuren, MP. 3, the Honorable Beatrice Kemei, MP. 4, the Honorable Joseph Imathe MP. 5, the Honorable T.J. Kajwang MP. 6, the Honorable Irene Kasalu MP. And 7, the Honorable Dick Maungu MP. Honorable members, the listed members will await the appointment of the senators to the mediation committee for the committee to be fully constituted for purposes of commencing the mediation process. Once I receive a message from the Senate to that effect, I will convey the same to the House. Thereafter, the mediation committees will embark on an attempt to develop mediated versions of the said bill in accordance with Article 113 of the Constitution. Honorable members, the House is accordingly guided. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Honorable members, pursuant to Standing Order 41-1 of the National Assembly Order, I wish to report that the House have received the 2 messages from the Senate regarding the passage of the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2023, and the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bill number 29 of 2023. Honorable members, the first message conveys that on Thursday, 7th March 2024, the Senate considered and passed the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2023 with amendments. You will recall that on Wednesday, 23rd August 2023, the National Assembly passed the bill with amendments, following which it was referred to the Senate for consideration in accordance with the provisions of Article 1104 of the Constitution. Honorable members, the second message relates to the passage of the Senate bill of the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bill number 29 of 2023. The bill, which was published via Kenya Gazette Supplement number 107 of 30th June 2023, seeks to provide inter alia a framework for the care and protection of child parents within the counties. To provide a framework through which an expectant girl child or child parent may actualize their rights to basic education and to ensure the care of the children. The message conveys that on Thursday, 7th March 2024, the Senate passed the bill without amendments and now seeks the concurrence of the National Assembly pursuant to Article 110 of 4 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 161 of the Senate Standing Orders. Honorable members, in order for the House to commence consideration of the Senate amendments to the Water Bill 2023, I direct as follows: that the clerk circulates the schedule of the Senate amendments to the Water Amendment Bill 2023 to all members, and that the Senate amendments to the Water Bill, Amendment Bill 2023, will stand referred to the Departmental Committee on Blue Economy and Irrigation for consideration and reporting to the House as appropriate. With regards to the second message, honorable members, Standing Order 143.1c of the National Assembly Standing Orders require that the Speaker to cause a bill to be received from the Senate to be read for the first time upon conveyance of its message. I therefore direct that 1, that the bill be listed in the order paper for the first reading at the next sitting, and 2, that the bill will stand committed to the Departmental Committee on Social Protection and Consideration. The House is accordingly guided. Thank you. You go to the next order.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader, you may proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, afternoon sitting. reports of the Auditor General of Financial Statements for the year ended 30th June 2023, and certificates therein in respect of the National Urban Transport Improvement Project IDA credit number 5140-KE-Kenya National Highways Authority, to Green Zones Development Support Project Phase 2 credit number PKE-AAD-005 Kenya Forest Services. 3. Nairobi Metropolitan Services Improvement Project IDA credit number 5102-KE State Department for Housing and Urban Development. 4. Coastal Region Water Security and Climate Resilience Project credit number 5543-KE/740-KE State Department for Water and Sanitation. 5. Kenya Energy Environment and Social Responsibility Programs Fund, State Department for Energy. 6. Kenya Enabling Activities for HFC Phase Down Project grant number UNEP Ken Sev /81/TAS/01 plus Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, Water and Sanitation Development Project IDA credit number 6029/6030-KE State Department for Water and Sanitation. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you. Next is the chairperson for the Departmental Committee on Education, Honorable Meli. Oh, you have designated someone else? Okay, Honorable Phyllis Bartoa, member for Moiben.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 13th March 2024. Report of the Departmental Committee on Education on its consideration of the Higher Education Loans Board Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2023. I lay the paper.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
The Honorable Member from Mbeere North, Honorable Geoffrey Ruku.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That aware that Kenya is an agricultural-based economy with a significant portion of its population relying on farming for their livelihood, noting that the quality and quantity of crop yield in Kenya has been hampered to a larger extent by lack of adequate and quality fertilizers, leading to decreased agricultural productivity and economic losses. Further noting that the government has committed to improving agricultural productivity through various initiatives, including provision of subsidized fertilizers, concerned that the cost, quantity, and quality of fertilizers and subsequently the cost of production of crops, of food crops and cash crops, including coffee, tea, miraa, has increased due to a number of factors, among them high cost of fertilizers due to markup by private suppliers of fertilizers. Further concerned that the threat to food security is a threat to national security, recognizing that the government-to-government model has been noted to lower the cost of products. Further recognizing that there are countries willing to enter into G2G agreement, appreciating that G2G has been proven to be effective in provision of services that has direct impact on citizens' livelihood, including the cost of living, such as the price of fertilizer, particularly in countries with similar agricultural conditions as Kenya. This House therefore resolves that the government, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock and Development and its agencies, adopts 1, the government-to-government model in the acquisition of supply of fertilizers by identifying potential partner countries that have surplus and quality fertilizers. And 2, a comprehensive program for government-to-government acquisition and distribution of fertilizers through, among others, Kenya Farmers Association, Kenya Tea Development Agency, Coffee Board of Kenya, Kenya Planters Cooperative Union, Kenya Grain Growers Cooperative Union, Pythagorean Board of Kenya, among others, for increased agricultural productivity. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mwingi West, Honorable Charles Ngusia. You have
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. Aware that sports plays an integral role in promoting cultural heritage, national identity, national development, the well-being of the people, and sustenance of livelihoods, particularly of the youth. Appreciating that sessional paper number 3 of 2005 provides a framework for sports development and operationalization in the country. Further appreciating that the sector plan for sports, culture and arts 2018 by the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Arts mainstreamed sports development in the 3rd medium-term plan for 2018 to 2022 under Kenya's Vision 2030, recognizing that the Vision 2030 aim at capitalizing on the country's international reputation as a world-class sports powerhouse, whose sportsmen and women have won international accolades and recognition, especially for their prowess in athletics. Concerned that despite bringing honor and national pride to the country, most of the sportsmen and women face a myriad of challenges such as lack of psychological support and social protection, hence pushing many to alarming levels of mental health challenges during their careers and even after retirement. Noting that sessional paper number 3 of 2005 contemplated motivation of sportsmen by the state through cash and material prizes, conferring state honors, appointment as well as goodwill ambassadors, and establishing contributory insurance and saving schemes, among other forms of motivation. Cognizant of the fact that the prospect of receiving state recognition, financial grants, and other perks inspires sportsmen to push their limit in attaining their full potential, as well as fostering a collective sense of pride in sporting achievements. Now, therefore, this House urges that the government, through the Minister of Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts, develop a policy and standardized sports reward scheme for recognizing the achievements made by the sports person in intentionally recognized competitions through 1, financial reward of Kenya shillings 6 million for setting a new world record, Kenya shillings 4 million for gold medalists, Kenya shillings 3 million for silver medalists, and 2 million for bronze medalists. 2, non-financial motivation, including facilitation with issuance of diplomatic passports for established sportsmen and women, appointment as goodwill ambassadors, and conferring national honors and privileges. And 3, establishing medical cover and post-retirement social protection scheme, including establishing contributory insurance and saving schemes to support sportsmen who retire from active sporting during injuries or age. Madam Speaker, I give the notice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 7. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable members, I would wish to give a communication in regards to order number 7. I'll start with a statement first. Honorable members, I think let me do the other one first before I come to this because it needs to be checked. So, honorable members, I wish to communicate to the House that we are in receipt of a letter that is addressed to the Clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Samuel Njoroge, CBS, and signed off by Mr. Amos N. Githecha, EBS, who is the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service Performance and Delivery Management, State Department for Public Service. Its reference invitation to respond to the questions in the plenary of the National Assembly on Wednesday, 13th March 2024. It refers to a communication that was dated 4th March 2024 on the above subject from Parliament. In the letter under reference, the Cabinet Secretary, the Ministry of Public Service Performance and Delivery Management, was invited to respond to various questions in the plenary of the National Assembly on Wednesday, 13th March 2024 at 2:30 p.m. However, due to a planned Cabinet meeting on the same date, the Cabinet Secretary will not be able to attend. Ordinarily, Cabinet meetings are held on Thursday. For those reasons, the purpose of this letter also is to request for rescheduling of the said appearance, but also to give apologies to the House. Thank you. Yes, your point of order, Honorable Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I've heard your communication and I have seen a copy of that letter from the Ministry of Public Service Performance and Delivery Management. Honorable Speaker, we designated Wednesday afternoons to have Cabinet Secretaries appear before the House to answer to questions. However, Honorable Speaker, I am aware it's indeed true that there was a Cabinet meeting, but it's also common knowledge His Excellency the President is an early riser. And Cabinet meetings are usually held in the morning session, and that is why Cabinet Secretaries are required to be in the House in the afternoon. Honorable Speaker, the President himself is on record that he will not hold any Cabinet Secretary from appearing before Parliament on account of a Cabinet meeting. True, Honorable Speaker, we usually send these notices to Cabinet Secretaries at least a week before. This Cabinet meeting, Honorable Speaker, as much as the letter says was an abrupt one, was only sent yesterday. So may it be known to all Cabinet Secretaries, not just Moses Kuria, all Cabinet Secretaries, that appearance before the House on Wednesday afternoons, once you are called here, is not optional. You must appear. Whether there is a Cabinet meeting or not, you must be in the House. True, Honorable Speaker, we cannot have principal secretaries being the ones writing to us. If the Cabinet Secretary is the one who has been invited, it must be the Cabinet Secretary writing to the House to say he's unavailable for this or that reason. And that has been the trend with all other Cabinet Secretaries. Why Moses Kuria decided to get PS Amos Gadesha to be the one to send this letter, I don't know why he may have decided to do that and whether he was in town. But if he was in town to appear for the Cabinet meeting this morning, he should also have been in town to do a letter addressed to the Speaker, giving his reasons and excuses for not to appear before the House. Honorable Speaker, I therefore would want it to be on record that the House shall not condone any Cabinet Secretary using any manner of excuse not to appear before the House for answering to questions and responding to statements to the people of Kenya as presented to him or her by the people's representatives. Honorable Speaker, lastly, let me take this opportunity now that I have it, Honorable Speaker. You know, in the House Business Committee on Tuesday and last week, Honorable Speaker, we did deliberate on the question of giving priority to members and committee reports, members' bills, private members' bills, which are usually given Wednesday mornings, and at times after the cabinet secretaries leave in the evening, we allow that time to be utilized to consider either committee reports or private members' bills. Honorable Speaker, if members will see, this afternoon's order paper has a lot of committee business. I would really want to plead with members, especially those who have a penchant for raising points of order in the evening, around what time, to bear with committees so that we're able to transact all these committee reports. At least it's only Wednesdays that we can be able to transact many of these pieces. And now that the Cabinet Secretary is not there this afternoon, let us take time to be able to consider all these committee reports and process as much as we can of our committee business. Honorable Speaker, you are the chair of the Liaison Committee. And you did summon myself to the Liaison Committee last week on this particular case after chairs of committees raised concern that the House Business Committee was not prioritizing committee reports. Therefore, any chair who has business lined up here, please be available throughout the afternoon so that even those who are used to raising points of order on quorum, there will be enough chairs in the House to provide quorum so that we are able to transact all these committee reports and finish with them today. And hopefully where we reach, we will also endeavor to find time tomorrow and sometime next week to process all committee reports that are ready. And I believe, Honorable Speaker, as the chair of the Liaison Committee, you will now appreciate that the House Business Committee has indeed done justice to the request that was put to me to take to the House Business Committee, which was done. Honorable Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Majority. I think your message will be put in a letter back to the Cabinet Secretary. And yeah, what's your point of order, Honorable Milema? I saw your hand up for a very long time. And I'll let you have your point of order after that.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Then I'll come to you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Just following up from where the Leader of Majority left, it's quite unfortunate that the Cabinet Secretary is not in the House and has also used another officer to address the House. We remember even when Ababu wrote his letter, which was not very pleasant, he indeed wrote it himself and signed. But away from that, it would be also noticeable that since the time we adopted this model of questioning, there's so much business that concerns Kenyans which go untouched because sometimes we have to wait. Honorable Speaker, the questions we asked to the CS Security, who also last week did not come to the House because of a similar excuse, some of those questions, Honorable Speaker, were asked last session of Parliament. And the situation keeps on getting so bad in the Muhaya and Luanda areas because of security. I would wish to say this, that as a mitigating way forward, Leader of Majority, you should have stated that then, therefore, this particular Cabinet Secretary, together with the Cabinet Secretary for Internal Security, should appear before this House on a particular date. Now that you did not say, I want to propose that they appear next Wednesday, both of them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I think that matter of scheduling will be dealt with by the House Business Committee, in which the Leader of Majority sits. Okay, Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, just listening to the Majority Leader addressing this issue of our Cabinet Secretary is not appearing, and I'm just feeling like I'm having a déjà vu moment, because this is not the first time that the Majority Leader has addressed this matter. And as a House, I think it's about time we started biting, because we are not biting enough. The executive ought to understand that our first role is actually to check them, and it's actually to question them. And for them not to appear, this is the second week that we are having a CS who is meant to appear before us, not appearing, and yet we want to address matters that are of national importance. And Honorable Speaker, just to add to what Honorable Milemba said, I think we actually need to summon these two CSs to appear. It can't be business as usual that they allow their secretaries to write to us instead of them themselves taking upon themselves the time to just type a few sentences and sign. It shouldn't be business as usual, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I think we should summon them and not just ask them to appear. Thank you.
Like I said, your sentiments will be taken and they'll be able to communicate to the cabinet secretaries. Allow me first to recognize the people in the public gallery. Honorable members, allow me to recognize the presence of the following guests in the public gallery. 1, Munyu Secondary School from Naivasha constituency, Nakuru County. 2, St. Clair's Girls High School from Gatundu South constituency, Kiambu County. And 3, Kenyatta University Co-Student Association, I presume from Nairobi, or from the coastal area of Kenya. And 4, I also wish to recognize the presence in the Speaker's Gallery of the African Holy Ghost Christian Church, Huruma, Nairobi, comprised of Sunday school officers. And on behalf of the National Assembly, I think I will give the Honorable Mshangi Karemba to welcome all the guests on behalf of the National Assembly.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to welcome our guests today. The students of Munyu Secondary School in Naivasha, the students of Clare Girls in Gatundu, and Kenyatta University Coast Students Association. Kenyatta University, which is my alma mater, together with some other members here. And I wish to tell the students who have come to Parliament today that the future belongs to them. It is only this moment that they are young, but the future is brilliant. The future is waiting for them so that they can become leaders in this country. And I wish to tell them that we started like them. We were students like them. We became student leaders in the University of Kenyatta University and other universities, and so we are here. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, I wish to appreciate in a very special way the Sunday school officers from the African Holy Ghost Christian Church, Huruma. This is the church where I worship while I am in Nairobi. This is where my children go for spiritual nourishment. And Honorable Speaker, the Sunday school officers you see in the Speaker's Gallery are people who have done a very commendable job. They have developed the first Sunday school curriculum in the Akorino fraternity. This has never happened before. So when I went to church 2 weeks ago, I told them that they must come to Parliament so that I can have a moment with them, take them on a tour of Parliament, because I was so impressed. They have done something for the future generations, and it will be remembered that it is during their time as Sunday school officers that it happened. So I love them, and we thank God for them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I will give the Honorable Member from Mundanyi, Honorable Danson Mwashoko, exactly 1 minute to welcome the students from Coast Region.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwanza nikushukuru kwa nafasi hii. Nichukue nafasi hii kukaribisha vijana wa Kenyatta University ambao ni vijana wanatoka Pwani. Mheshimiwa Spika, vijana hawa ni karibu vijana 100. Leo waliona ni vyema watembee katika bunge la kitaifa ili wakaone ni vipi basi tunafanya kazi katika nyumba hii ambayo imeheshimika. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, wanafunzi hawa wamebobea sana katika masuala ya masomo, katika masomo tofauti tofauti, lakini kando na masomo, Mheshimiwa Spika, hawa ni viongozi ambao tunatarajia sana ndani ya miaka 2-3 wanapomaliza masomo yao ya chuo, basi wengine wao hata watakuja kuwa wabunge na maseneta na viongozi katika taifa letu la Kenya. Kwa hivyo kwa niaba ya wenzangu wa Pwani, mimi nikiwa mwenyekiti wa vuguvugu la wabunge wa Pwani, chairman wa Coast Parliamentary Group. Nachukua nafasi hii kuwakaribisha katika bunge la kitaifa vijana wetu kutoka Pwani, wajisikie wako sawa, wako kwao, na wajue sisi wabunge wao tutafanya kazi ili masomo yao yasitatizike, lakini pia tutafanya kazi ili nchi yetu ipate kutafuta nafasi za ajira. Wanapomaliza shule, wanapomaliza vyuo, wapate kazi na wabadilishe hali za maisha za kwao nyumbani. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Karibu vijana wa Kosaku ambapo ni kutoka Kenyatta University. Mheshimiwa Spika, pengine niseme tu, mimi nikiwa Kenyatta University mwaka wa 99 mpaka 203, sisi ama mimi na wengine ndo tulianzisha hii Coast Student Association kule Kenyatta University. Kwa hivyo nikiwaona hapa nafurahia, maanake najua kazi tuliyofanya wakati ule leo hii bado inabobea na bado ameshikilia umoja wa Pwani. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Honorable, what's your point of order? The Honorable Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Speaker. Before I get to my substantive issue, I just want to echo what the Leader Majority had said earlier on the appearance of Cabinet Secretaries. You know, today I came here eager to meet my good friend Moses Kuria, but unfortunately he's not been able to come. But Honorable Speaker, you know, Moses Kuria had one time written to this House, to the speakers, I think, asking for a high-level meeting to discuss how government business is to be processed in this House. So I would have expected him to be the first person to come here so as to be able to be seized of these issues. But all the same, that is by the way. I hope that in the coming weeks we shall see more and more of the CSS coming on time and as invited. Honorable Speaker, the issue I'm raising on a point of order on is the matter of the...
What's your point of information, Majority Leader?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I thank the Leader of Minority for allowing me to inform him, because I responded to that particular letter that the Honorable Pio Wandai refers to, when the Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria wrote to the Speaker, asking the Speaker that he wants to convene what was termed as a high-level meeting to discuss how Parliament will process government bills, Honorable Speaker. When we requested the Ministry of Public Service and Delivery, because, Honorable Speaker, we understood probably Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria might have confused this House as part of the public service. And he wanted, therefore, to supervise how we do our work. And we checked with his ministry what were their concerns, what bills had not been processed. Honorable Speaker, it's important to put it on record that when we checked the list of bills that Moses Kuria sent to us that were pending, 9 bills had already been assented to by His Excellency the President, having been considered and passed by this House. 52 out of the 56 regulations that he claimed were pending in Parliament, 52 had already been adopted by the House. Some of the other bills that he claimed had not been processed as government bills was a bill belonging to the Leader of Minority. And I do not know whether the Leader of Minority processes any bills on behalf of government. It was a private member's bill belonging to the Leader of Minority, and therefore we duly informed the Cabinet Secretary and also appraised him with the current structure of government, that the office charged with the responsibility of coordinating work between the executive and the legislature is the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. And therefore that matter, I believe, was put to rest that way. And it was good that I informed the Honorable Pio and we did respond appropriately to Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria. But I agree with the Pio and the same way he wrote should have been him writing to the House, not his principal secretary.
We proceed, Honorable Mandai.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the issue I want to raise is this, and it's very important that we pay attention as members. The financial year 2023-2024 is just 3 or so months shy of coming to a close. And you know, Honorable Speaker, the performance of the budget is dependent to a large extent on how monies are released, on the exchequer releases and the absorption of the exchequer releases by the respective ministries and state departments. Honorable Speaker, we know that every budget cycle we undertake public participation. And upon such public participation, monies are appropriated. I am talking specifically about public participation money in the Ministry of Roads, in the State Department for Roads. That money is budgeted for every other financial year. And this financial year I'm talking about, that not even a single cent of that money has been disbursed. From the National Treasury to the ministry, and from the ministry, therefore, to the respective agencies. For budget performance, the kind of employment generation we are talking about through the housing project, the affordable housing project, is the same kind of employment would generate through roads, maintenance, and constructions. So what is good for the goose is certainly good for the gander. If employment can come from affordable housing, it can similarly come from road maintenance and construction works. Therefore, my issue is this. What is it that is stopping the National Treasury from releasing funds towards public participation budgeted works in the State Department of Roads? And this is an issue that concerns every member here, because those roads don't exist in the air. Roads are in the constituencies, which we represent. We don't want a situation where once money has been appropriated, then some people go and sit in some dark corner somewhere and determine which one to be disbursed, which one not to be disbursed. That would certainly be tantamount to undermining the authority and power of this August House. So I want to plead with you, Honorable Speaker, to allow a few members to contribute to this very important matter, because this is a matter that is so serious that can cause problems between this House and the executive. Honorable Speaker, this House remains an independent institution. We are not beholden to anybody, any other authority. We only defer to the Speaker when in this House. And once we make a decision such as passing an appropriation bill, which then becomes an appropriation act, and money continues to be collected by KRA, the money must be disbursed. You must release the exchequer to the respective, and especially on a matter concerning roads, we would allow you to get away with it. So I would want you to compel Leader of Majority to follow up with the National Treasury and come back here with a definite statement, if possible tomorrow. But before you do so, please allow some members to ventilate so that we can get the gist of the matter. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. I will, if there's interest, I'll give at least 2 and 2, and then we move to the next order. So you need to key in on intervention. And the first intervention I see here is the Honorable Bashir Abdullahi. Do you want to speak on this? The Honorable David Gikaria is in the House at intervention. Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, first of all, I want to thank the Majority Leader for being very candid on matters of these cabinet secretaries and what they do. Honorable Speaker, it is very unfortunate. Last week, it was the same excuse. This week, and you know how important in the last parliament when we came and we amended our standing order so that we can allow cabinet secretaries to be coming here instead of committee chairs coming to answer questions that are written. So we needed and that is how important it was for these cabinet secretaries to be coming before the floor of the House. So it is important, Honorable Speaker, as Majority Leader has indicated, we must also, I think, something that we forgot, in case of now this could be a trend. And you can imagine a week, 4 weeks in a month, they only come 4 times. If we don't make it, then it means pushing forward. Most importantly also, Honourable Speaker, is also that they have that tendency also of not even coming before committees. That every time you try to request a cabinet secretary to come before a committee.
Order, Honourable Gikaria. You know, we had moved from that matter you are discussing. And we were now dealing with the point of order that the leader of minority rose on. So I want to declare you out of order and give the Honorable Mwenje to speak on this. Mwenje, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the issue that has been spoken by the leader of minority, I can't emphasize it further than even what he's already done. Because money that has already been appropriated for purposes of roads. And Honorable Speaker, I want to speak even about Nairobi, Honorable Speaker. We have so many roads that have remained undone. We have money that was appropriated even in previous parliaments. We have pending bills that have remained unpaid so that those contractors can complete some of those projects, Honorable Speaker. So it is important that the Ministry of Roads, and more so the CS, ensures that those funds that have been appropriated here by this House are used effectively as per what was agreed on the floor of this House, Honorable Speaker. Because otherwise, we end up in a situation where money which is supposed to build roads in our constituencies is not getting there, as has been mentioned. And that is affecting us, Honorable Speaker. So we want to ensure, kindly, the Ministry of Finance must ensure these funds are released and they are utilized the way they ought to be used for purposes of development of our roads, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'd want to request, there are members here who wanted to contribute to this issue, Honorable Speaker, if you can allow it to be 4-4 so that we can ventilate on this issue and just keep it under 1 minute, Honorable Speaker. Kindly, your indulgence, please.
The Honorable KJ.
Honorable Speaker, this is an extremely serious matter. And I want to support the Honorable Leader of Majority for raising this matter, the Honorable Leader of Minority. It affects every single constituency. Honorable Speaker, some people might be imagining that Nairobi is extremely well covered in terms of road network. But when you think about it, even previous programs on roads in Nairobi have actually failed. The most recent one being the roads that had been earmarked for development in slum upgrading program. Mr. Speaker, we are on record in this House as members of Parliament saying that the work that was done was extremely shoddy. People were laying cabro on what you call cotton soil in our constituencies, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the big issue here is Parliament taking its place, its rightful place in budgeting. No other house, no other institution, no other entity has the role of appropriating monies in the budget. And when it is appropriated by Parliament, everything else is automatic machination to ensure that it gets to the constituency, and no one should appropriate responsibilities that they are not their own to go and appropriate after Parliament has appropriated. So, Honorable Speaker, allow me 1 minute to also add that the questions that are asked in this House, some of them, time is of essence. So when a cabinet secretary does not show up, for example, the cabinet secretary was to be appearing today.
Order, Honorable KJ.
I'll just be very short on this one.
We had actually dealt with a matter of questions. So you have made your point.
Yes, I'll be 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
No, the interest is very high, so please take your place.
Much obliged,
Honorable Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to also reiterate what the minority leader has said, especially the issue of roads. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, the CS in charge of finance must wake up and do his job. It looks very easy, Honorable Speaker, to sit in an office and fail to know that Kenyans are out there suffering. I just want to look at a scenario, Honorable Speaker, a situation where El Nino was here with us. The roads up country were damaged. And immediately after the roads were damaged, there were promises that they'll be done. In addition to that, Honorable Speaker, there is also the money that was voted for in this House that was meant for RML to go down to the various constituencies. That money has not been dispersed. In addition to that, Honorable Speaker, there are also those roads which were begun some times back in form of tarmac, like the C41 in my constituency, Honorable Speaker. It is not done in really sense, Honorable Speaker. What has happened is supposed to be maintained. That has not been done. There is no money which has been sent to that. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it's important. Let the CS in charge of finance be called to order by this House and let him live up to the role that he was given so that he can get us the money in our various constituencies. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Finally, the Chair Rhodes. Are you in the House?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I followed what the leader of minority has raised, and I want to agree with the House that we do appropriate budgets, but the responsibility to release funds is of rise with the Treasury. So we have done our part. The part to release, the responsibility to release funds is with the ministry. I do not want to say more on this matter. Thank you.
Very well. I think we shall close that matter at that particular level, unless the leader of majority wants to speak on it.
Yeah.
Yes, let's hear the leader, and then we wind up on that particular matter.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me thank the leader of minority for raising that issue. And public participation, Honorable Speaker, is a constitutional imperative. And since the advent of this new constitution, every year, the Budget and Appropriations Committee has devoted funds to public participation, which must be disbursed as approved and appropriated by the House without any undue delay. However, Honorable Speaker, there are also other issues. And I am certain many members here are aware of the other issues pertaining especially to the sector of roads. But I will pick up the issue on the actual public participation money other than the others that members are aware of, part of which is an issue that was addressed here by the Cabinet Secretary for Roads when he appeared here. And Honorable Speaker, because there is that other matter that was very well addressed by the Cabinet Secretary for Roads, which I am certain we do not want to delve into now, but for the public participation one, I will get to the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury, to first provide us with a list so that we ensure that it is in the counties that we carry out public participation. Because public participation ordinarily, and I see the Honorable Dan, member for...
The leader order. The leader is on a point of order. Let him proceed. Proceed, leader.
Thank you. Honorable Dan Mwashako is a seasoned member of the Budget Committee, and we will tell you the public participation funds are usually done, we used to do them for about 11 counties per year. So that by the end of 4 years, we have covered all the 47 counties. And the budget that is available for that exercise, ordinarily we had started with 1.2 billion. I think by 2019, when I was shipped out of the Budget and Appropriations Committee by the previous regime, we are approaching about 1.82 billion shillings. And I know that amount of about 2 billion shillings is still available for public participation, including this year. But it's also important, Honorable Speaker, that the Budget and Appropriations Committee makes it a very open and transparent system where in your report you inform the House which particular counties are you doing public participation in a particular year. So that you also get the involvement and ownership by these members of parliament who represent their constituencies. So for instance, when you're going to Siaya, the leader of minority should know that you're going to Siaya so that he mobilizes the public to come and give you the projects that are of priority basis to the people. Because, Honorable Speaker, there is always a temptation for people to sit and appropriate resources based on what they think are priorities for people. The essence of public participation was when the Budget and Appropriations Committee goes for public participation in the identified counties, they're able to get issues that are of pertinent concern to citizens within that particular county or constituencies and were not factored in the budget and have them factored in the budget. But I think, Honorable Speaker, with time, unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately, we have begun losing the very essence of that public participation, and we need to get back our rails on track. But, Honorable Speaker, the issue raised by the Leader of Minority, as I have said, I'll pick it up with the National Treasury.
Honorable members, that matter will rest there for now. Before we move to the next order, let me acknowledge the presence in the House and in the Speaker's Gallery, Othaya Girls High School, Othaya constituency, Nyeri County. Honorable members, let me also acknowledge in the public gallery this afternoon, Elbagon Secondary School, Molo constituency, Nakuru. Any member of parliament from Nyeri, just to welcome those students, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to take this opportunity to welcome Othaya Girls Secondary School to this August House. This is one of the leading institutions in Nyeri, and that is performing very well as an extra county school. And Honorable Speaker, this opportunity for these young girls to come and get exposed to the proceedings of the August House as we debate on matters that are of national importance and that affect the population and the nation as a whole. I want to encourage them to take note of the number of women legislators who are in Parliament today. And actually, Honorable Speaker, I want to commend the ladies because quite a number are present today. And this is an inspiration to them that they can aim higher, and this place is also a destination for them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next order. Order, members, we move to statements. The Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2D, I rise to make a statement on the leadership of the Committee on the Members' Services and Facilities and the Committee of Powers and Privileges, which were reconstituted on Tuesday, 5th, 2024. Honorable Speaker, Standing Order 212B establishes that the Committee on Members' Services and Facilities and provides that the committee shall consist of a chairperson and not more than 14 other members who shall be approved by the House at the commencement of every session. Further, Honorable Speaker, Standing Order 178-1 partly provides that unless provided under any written law, standing orders, or by resolution of the House, a select committee shall, upon appointment, elect a chairperson, a vice chairperson from among its members. Honorable Speaker, following the reconstitution and approval of the members to serve in the committee on Tuesday, 5th March 2024, pursuant to Standing Order 212B3, the Clerk of the National Assembly, in exercise of the powers conferred under the provisions of Standing Order 179-2, declared a vacancy of the office of chairperson and vice chairperson of the committee on Wednesday, 6th March 2024. Honorable Speaker, Standing Order 179-1 requires that the clerk to appoint a place and date and time of the first meeting of the committee within 7 days of its constitution by the House, or such other further period as the Speaker may approve. In compliance with the said standing order, the clerk appointed Tuesday, 12 March 2024 at 4 p.m. as the date and time for the conduct of the elections, which took place in Room 9 at the main Parliament buildings. Honorable Speaker, Standing Order 179 specifies the form of a candidate's nomination paper as prescribed in the 5th schedule to the standing orders. The nomination papers were issued as prescribed and whereof by the deadline on the submission of the nomination papers on Monday, 11th March 2024 at 5 p.m., the following honorable members had submitted duly filled nomination forms. They are as follows. 1, the Honorable Dr. Stephen Wachira Karani, MP for the position of chairperson. And 2, the Honorable Faisal Bada Salim, MP for the position of vice chairperson. Honorable Speaker, Standing Order 179-12 provides that if only one candidate is nominated for the election as chairperson or vice chairperson, the clerk shall, at the expiry of the nomination period, forthwith declare that that candidate as elected without any vote required. Consequently, having received only one nomination from each of the positions, the clerk declared the Honorable Dr. Stephen Wachira Karani, MP, and the Honorable Faisal Bada Salim, MP, duly elected as chairperson and vice chairperson of the Committee on Member Services and Facilities, respectively. Honorable Speaker, in line with Standing Order 179-14, I therefore notify the House that the Honorable Dr. Stephen Wachira Karani, MP, and the Honorable Faisal Bada Salim, MP, were duly elected as chairperson and vice chairperson of the Committees on Member Services and Facilities, respectively. Honorable Speaker, the House may recall that the Committee of Powers and Privileges, which is chaired by the Right Honorable Speaker, was also reconstituted on 5th March 2024. Whereas the law establishing the committee does not provide for the office of vice chairperson, it has become an established practice of the House for the Speaker to designate a member of the committee to perform the duties of the vice chairperson and represent the committee in the liaison committee. In this regard, I also notify the House that the Speaker designated the Honorable Joseph Lekuton, CBS MP, as the vice chairperson of the Committee of Powers and Privileges, who shall also sit in the liaison committee as the Speaker's representatives. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 8, the Regional Development Authorities Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2023, second reading, resumption of debate.
The Honorable Tindi Mwale, not being in the House. The Honorable John Mutunga, had you spoken on this? Honorable members who could refresh the screen, remove your cards and key in afresh, because most of the members who are on the list are not possibly interested in speaking on this. So, very well, you can now key in. Very well, the Honorable Maina Madenge, Nyeri Town. Had you spoken on this? I suspect you had spoken on this. The Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi. Is Ferdinand Wanyonyi in the House? Not ready. The Honorable Makali Mulu.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity to add my voice into this important bill. I was prepared to do it yesterday, but time did not allow, so I'm very happy that now I have the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I want to start by supporting this important bill, the bill on regional authorities. As opening remarks, Honorable Speaker, we all know that we have quite a number of these regional authorities in this country, and most of them have been administered from different acts of parliament. So it's very important when I see one bill which attempts to consolidate all the regional authorities into one bill, Honorable Speaker, because that is going to ensure that we streamline the operations of these regional authorities by having a uniform structure on how to manage them. But even as we do that, Honorable Speaker, it is important that we look at some of the challenges which have been faced by these regional authorities, so that we make sure that this final bill, when it becomes an act of parliament,
those challenges have been adequately addressed in the bill. Honorable Speaker, one of the challenges we are facing in this country with regional authorities is the challenge of inadequate funding. Honorable Speaker, normally these regional authorities are supposed to be serving the development needs of this country. That means you need both a recurrent budget and a development budget, Honorable Speaker. But over time, what has happened, because of inadequacies of funding, you realize that the recurrent budget is being provided, and in most cases, very minimal budget for development. So they don't end up serving the purposes for which they are created. So one of the things you need to be very clear on, Honorable Speaker, is to make sure that these important authorities in this country, we must provide resources for them so that other than just paying salaries, they go to that extra mile to ensure that development is also implemented in this country through them. Some of them play very key roles, Honorable Speaker. For example, those ones in the water authorities. Water is a major problem in our ASO and semi-ASO areas in this country. And if those authorities were effective, if they were efficient, they would have done a lot in sorting out that matter. So for me, from where I sit, one of the reasons why I'm supporting this bill would be to have a structure, a financial framework to make sure that they are adequately funded. The other matter which is critical, Honorable Speaker, and which keeps on coming up every time we see it, is the issue of duplication of roles, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you realize that some of the work they are doing, duplication is at two levels. There is duplication at the national level, and there is duplication at the county level. Honorable Speaker, some of the functions being performed by these local regional authorities, Honorable Speaker, you realize there is duplication. There is a lot of, you take one and another one, you find that they are doing almost the same thing, and it's like where one stops, it's not very clear, one stops, another one starts. So you find there is overlap. And one of the things should be sorting out, Honorable Speaker, through this bill, is to ensure that each of the regional authorities which is going to remain after restructuring, Honorable Speaker, that we have a very clear mandate for them. So that, for example, I want to say this, Honorable Speaker, about 2 weeks, we did visit my constituency, where we have the Tanavi Development Authority, and we have then the National Water and Harvesting Authority. Water and Water Harvesting Storage Authority, Honorable Speaker. Now, you find one of the dams we have in my constituency is called Kalundu Dam. Kalundu Dam was done by the National Water and Harvesting Authority, but after completing the implementation, Honorable Speaker, there wasn't that proper handing over from that dam to Atanathi, which is now the local authority covering our area. So because of that lack of proper handing over, you find that that dam currently is not serving the purpose you were supposed to be serving, Honorable Speaker. Because the river is polluted, the intention was to do small-scale irrigation in the area. But because there was no proper handing over, then we have faced that challenge of the dam being there, but not really serving the purpose. So one of the areas we must address, Honorable Speaker, is to ensure that even at the national level, Honorable Speaker, we don't have overlaps in terms of functions. In that case, then we'll be able to have them serving specific functions and helping Kenyans. The other level of overlap, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of the county and the national government. Honorable Speaker, most of the functions being performed by these regional authorities are devolved. For example, water is devolved, Honorable Speaker, and you find that it is not clear what the county government needs to do and what the authority needs to do. And it's also not very clear at what point do they work together because they are doing the same function. So that confusion, Honorable Speaker, what has happened is that because of that confusion, then you have conflict always. That what the regional authorities are doing, Honorable Speaker, county governments are complaining that they are taking over their role. So we must also make sure through this bill, Honorable Speaker, that we come out clearly in terms of what belongs to the county government and what belongs to the regional authorities. In that case, then we'll minimize the authority. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, the county government are also having an argument that it makes sense that the reason why they are not getting the rightful share in terms of equitable sharing is because some of the money which should be with them is being left at Nairobi to take care of functions which are already devolved, Honorable Speaker. So in that case, they are saying, if we were very clear in terms of what is devolved and what is not devolved, then county governments will be able to get more resources from the national government without even adding any resource in terms of revenue collection, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, these are some of the critical issues I think we need to address as a country. The other thing is the issue of the administrative framework, Honorable Speaker. In most cases, these regional authorities have been used as the employment bureau, Honorable Speaker, where the politicians, as included, see these bodies as a way of creating employment for our supporters, Honorable Speaker. And anytime you visit them, you look at the board composition, you look at who is employed there, Honorable Speaker, you will find that there is a very close alignment of the minister and the people working in those bodies, or the board managing the regional authorities. In that case, Honorable Speaker, then you find that we lose what I will call the issue of focusing more on competencies, so that we get people who can manage them. And that's why the other day you had the Deputy Majority Leader saying, I wishes that the Coast Development Authority was being managed by people from the coast. Because to me, that's just a clear confirmation that we are thinking of areas where we create jobs for our people, which is not the right way, Honorable Speaker. So as we enact this law, Honorable Speaker, we must make sure that we have a very clear description of who qualifies to be a board member in these authorities, who qualifies to be employed in these authorities, and we focus more on merit other than connections. Because the challenge we have in this country, Honorable Speaker, is when it comes to matters of who joins which board and matters of who is employed where, the focus is more on how do I relate the connections you have as opposed to the merit. And I think time has come that as a House, we need to make sure that now we focus more on merit, Honorable Speaker. And if we do that, then we'll be helping this country. The last point, Honorable Speaker, as I allow other members to contribute, is the point of the numbers. We have so many of these regional authorities, Honorable Speaker. You wonder whether the number we have should be the optimum number, Honorable Speaker. I do believe we could do with a smaller number than we have and still achieve the same outcome. So to me, from where I sit, we should be looking at it from what do we want to achieve at the end of the day? What result do we want to achieve? And then work backwards, Honorable Speaker, coming to a point to say, how many regional authorities do we need to achieve the desired result? If we go that way, then we will get the right number, Honorable Speaker. The number of regional authorities should be more efficient, effective, and which can be accountable to Kenyans in terms of the resources we are pumping to them. So, Honorable Speaker, as I support this bill, I think honorable members need to make sure that when it comes to that reading, we are very clear in terms of what do we need to do to make sure that Kenyans get value for money. And in this era where we have shortage of resources, Honorable Speaker, this bill could not have come at a better time to make sure that we streamline these regional authorities and then we achieve for Kenyans and push Kenya to the next level. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, what's your point of order, Honorable Wanjiku Muya?
Honorable Speaker, I'm starting on standing order number 95 to notify you that this bill has been sufficiently debated, and therefore I request if you could call the mover to reply. Honorable Speaker, many of us you see here are waiting for the next order. Thank you.
Honorable members, the member has risen from his place on standing order number 95, that the mover be called upon to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank all the members who made contributions in this bill, and also thank the members of the Regional Development Committee for working hard and ensuring that we get the report of this bill, and of course availing themselves yesterday to make their contributions. So, Honorable Speaker, as I rise to reply, I echo majority of the sentiments as exposed by honorable members in this House. And Honorable Speaker, I want to bring to the attention of this House the provisions of Article 189(2) of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 that outlines the importance of cooperation among the different levels of government. That is between the national government and the county government. Honorable Speaker, by combining Honorable Speaker, Honorable Ferdinand is asking for some time, but maybe at the end of my time, I'll give him about 2 minutes. That will work, that will be fine. So, Honorable Speaker, I'm saying that now combining the strengths of the national and county governments through RDS will help
Order,
us.
Chair. The procedure would be that if you want Honorable Ferdinand to speak on this, then let him go first and then take very little time. But you had already begun doing your business on this particular bill. I guide that you may proceed. He will speak on another matter. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was saying that now combining the strengths of the RDS, who are national government agencies, together with county governments, will, when they join forces, this will ensure that we tackle regional inequalities, will give them strength to boost economic progress and improve the overall quality of life throughout this country, everywhere in this country. Honorable Speaker, now these partnerships between the county and national government helps to avoid duplication of projects, ensuring that initiatives align with broader regional plans and promote a unified approach to addressing regional challenges. Now, Honorable Speaker, moreover, counties and RDS now often possess complementary resources that when combined, maybe through various funding such as of infrastructure, because the regional development authorities have skilled personnel. Now, through collaboration, they will be able to achieve much as they combine, that's the regional development authorities plus the county government. Now, it is in this spirit, Honorable Speaker, that the National Dialogue Committee now recommended in paragraph 833Q of their report that the constituting acts like the ones we are now proposing of regional development authorities, that is RDS, be amended to provide for representation of county governments in the boards of the regional development authorities. So, Honorable Speaker, this is to tell you that even during the National Dialogue Committee engagement, issues of RDS came up, and there was a recommendation. And I'm sure, Honorable Speaker, that this House and Kenyans are waiting for the implementation of the NARCO report. And within that NARCO report, Honorable Speaker, you've had in paragraph 833Q, mention was made of the regional development authorities to tell you that even those who participated in that NARCO committee recognized the importance of RDS. That is why they had it in their report. Now, Honorable Speaker, again, this aligns, the RDS, this aligns with the provisions of Article 189 of the Constitution on the need for collaboration. And Honorable Speaker, in section 32J of this bill, it talks about consultation and collaboration between the RDS and the county governments. Now, Honorable Speaker, RDS remain vital entities in our country's development landscape, that their diverse functions and proven capacity to foster socio-economic growth while effectively managing resources, and we are talking about the best-invested resources in this case for RDS, they play a pivotal role in driving sustainable growth and resource management nationwide or throughout this country. Now, Honorable Speaker, I implore fellow honorable members who have dissenting opinion to support this bill in order to continue with their mandate of alleviating poverty, improving development of infrastructure, industries, social services. I therefore request these members to bring amendments to the bill at the committee stage so that we can improve the bill to make it even better. Honorable Speaker, the RDS are credited for conceptualization and implementation of the following mega projects in this country. One, the Masinga and Kiambere multipurpose dams on River Tana, that was done between 1984 to 1987. Now, the Takwel multipurpose dam on River Takwel, which was done between 1986 and 1991, Honorable Speaker. The Sondu River multipurpose project on River Sondu, under which Sondu Miriu hydropower was implemented in 1990. Now, Honorable Speaker, Mwache Dam multipurpose development project implementation is ongoing. Now, Honorable Speaker, now in addition, there are several concepts and feasibility studies on integrated multipurpose projects by the various regional development authorities at the stage of resource mobilization. And Honorable Speaker, it is worth noting here that RDS have done a lot of feasibility studies, and therefore they are at a stage of trying to mobilize resources so that they implement what they have already projected to do and what they already have done feasibility studies on. Now, some of the projects where the RDS have done feasibility studies, Honorable Speaker, include the following. The High Grand Falls Multipurpose Reservoir on River Tana. Nandi Multipurpose Reservoir on River Yala. The Magwagwa Multipurpose Reservoir on River Sondu. Now, Lower Ewaso Nyiro River Basin Integrated Multipurpose Dams Project. Aror River Basin Integrated Multipurpose Project. The Takwel Downstream Irrigation Project as part of the Takwel Dam Multipurpose Integrated Project. Honorable Speaker, it is also worth noting here that the regional development authorities transcend counties. You will find that one regional authority, Honorable Speaker, covers more than 4 or 5 counties. And it is therefore important to know that the works done by counties may not really be equated to the works done by the regional development authorities. Now, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that counties have their work cut out. And this bill is now trying to standardize the memberships of boards of RDS. And in our committee report, we recommended, which we will bring at an appropriate time, 9. Then 2, we want to bring all the RDS under one act. Honorable Speaker, now with this many, because I see time is up, with these few remarks, I want to ask honorable members of this House that we pass this bill.
Give him 1 minute to conclude.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for adding me 1 minute. Honorable Speaker, I was requesting honorable members that we pass this bill, move to the next stage, where we have also proposed as a committee amendments, including amending the number of board members from 12 to 9 and other amendments that as a committee we have proposed. Honorable Speaker, with these few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. The question to this particular bill will be put during the next session. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, compliance to Article 54(2) of the Constitution regarding employment of persons with disability in public institutions.
The Chairperson, Departmental Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities. Is the chair in the House?
Yes, I'm here.
Proceed.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I have been waiting for this for a long time, me and my team. Mr. Speaker, the Committee of National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity requests this House to adopt the report of the report of the committee on the compliance of Article 542 of the Constitution regarding employment of persons with disability in the public institutions, which was laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, the 21st February, 2024. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Committee of National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity resolved to carry out inquiry into the employment diversity in public institutions, specifically on the status of the compliance of the composition of persons with disability in the public institutions pursuant to Article 54(2) of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, to achieve this objective, the committee resolved to sample 39 public institutions for its report on the compliance of the status of employment of people with disability. Subsequently, the committee invited the select institutions to make submissions to various dates regarding the institution's compliance with the same. The main objective of the inquiry is to assess the representation of people with disability within the public institutions of Kenya. Specifically, the committee requested the institutions to provide the following. 1. Status of compliance with Article 54(2) of the Constitution on composition of persons with disability in the institutions. 2. Assess the distribution of persons with disability across different cadres of institutions. 3. Measures put in place to make sure workplace is suitable and friendly for persons with disability. Honorable Speaker, in this audit, the committee observed the need for public service to ensure equitable opportunity for the appointments, training, advancement of persons with disability. However, the committee notes that since the promulgation of the Constitution 2010, the public institutions have not complied with the required threshold for persons with disability, which is 5% as per the Constitution. Unfortunately, the average percentage of persons with disability representation in the institutions is 2.1%, where the Constitution says minimum of 5%. The average for 39 institutions is 2.1%. Honorable Speaker, additionally, most institutions that appear before the committee submitted that they do not receive applications from persons with a disability as required, hence low representation. Despite the provision of Article 54(2) of the Constitution 2010, which requires persons with a disability should make up to at least minimum 5% workforce, only one institution interviewed has complied with the as indicated in the report. That is the Lake Basin Development Authority. All others are far below the required minimum. Honorable Speaker, after lengthy deliberations with the stated institutions and arising from the observation, the committee recommends the following. 1, public institutions should review their human resource policies within 3 months of adoption of this report to create minimum required 5% threshold job opportunities for people with disability. Number 2, within 6 months of adoption of this report, the National Council for People with Disability should initiate the amendment of Persons with Disability Act to align with Article 54(2) of the Constitution. Number 3, within 6 months of adoption of this report, the public institutions should formulate, put into effect, comprehensive disability mainstreaming policies to encompass all facets of the workplaces. Number 4, within 3 months of adoption of this report, the National Council for People with Disability should make positive measures to facilitate comprehensive registration of persons with disability in their database. 5, the institutions should implement affirmative action focused on retirement, on recruitment, outreach efforts, awareness campaign to increase the representation of people with disability. Number 6, public institutions should align their human resource policies with the requirement of the retirement age for people living with disabilities and inform people living with disabilities their rights. Number 7, institutions should submit reports to National Council of People with Disability and encourage people with disabilities to participate in decision-making processes and challenge the cultural norms through campaigns and education. Honorable Speaker, sir, it is even after this report, after these 39 institutions, the committee went ahead and looked into so many others, maybe about 60-something institutions of the government. And all in all, the average is 2.1. This is a gross violation of the Constitution, Article 54(2) of the 2010 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I submit and I take this opportunity to request my deputy, Honorable Chelule, to second. Asante.
Honorable Chelule.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kunipatia nafasi huu. Niunge mkono mswada ambaye imeletwa kwenye bunge huu na chairman wetu wa National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity. Nimefurahi sana leo hii report kufika mbele ya bunge hili. Tumejaribu kwa muda ya wiki karibu 4 tukiketi hapa kwenye hii bunge. Kwa hivyo nimefurahi kama member ya hii kamati kwamba imewekwa mbele ya bunge hili. Na nataka kuchukua nafasi kupongeza chairman na kupongeza members ya kamiti yetu ambaye wengi wameketi kwenye bunge adhuhuri ya leo. Ninafurahi sana mimi nikiwa vice chair ama nikiwa msaidizi mdogo wa chairman wetu. Ninaunga mkono na ninasema vile imefika mbelenu wajumbe wenzangu, ningependa sana tutilie maanane mambo ambayo inahusu wale watu wasiojiweza. Tunajua tuko na hawa kule nyumbani, wengine ni madada zetu, wengine ni mandugu zetu, wengine ni majirani, wengine tunaenda kanisa pamoja, na wengine ya hawa ni watu ambaye pia wanaajibika katika familia zao na wanataka usaidizi. Utapata kwamba wengi hawajaweza kujiandikisha kwa vikundi, utapata wengi hawajaweza hata kupata habari kwamba kuna kazi imetangazwa mahali fulani. Kwa hivyo ninachukua hii nafasi kuomba wajumbe wenzangu kwamba tusimame imara na hawa, na ningependa kusema tutaanza na maofisi yetu. Ningeomba kwamba kama uko na ofisi ya serikali ama yako kibinafsi, tuwapatie nafasi kulingana na sheria ambaye tumeambiwa na chairman wetu. Kwa hivyo ninachukua hii nafasi kusema ni kazi yetu kama viongozi kutetea hawa watu. Tunaelewa kwamba hawajiwezi kwa njia moja ama nyingine, lakini hiyo haimaanishi hawatafanya kazi. Kwa hivyo ninachukua hii nafasi kuwaomba wajumbe wenzangu kwamba wapatie nafasi kwa mambo ya basari, wapatiwe nafasi katika maofisi yao. Tuangalie itakapokuja hapa kuongelewa, sisi wote tutatazama kama viongozi, kama wajumbe, chinzi vile tutawasaidia kule nyumbani. Kwa hayo machache, Bwana Spika, ninaomba kuunga mkono mswada huu ambaye imeletwa katika bunge hili. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana. Honorable members, I propose the question that this House adopts the committee. Let me take it again. Honorable members, I propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities on the compliance of Article 54(2) of the Constitution regarding employment of persons with disabilities in public institutions, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 21st February 2024. The first bite goes to Honorable John Namoit, Turkana South. The Honorable John Namoit. In the absence of the Honorable John Namoit, second is the Honorable Harrison Kombe, Magarini.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi ya kuweza kuchangia taarifa ambayo imetoka kwa kamati ya uwiano. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hakika katika yale mashirika tulioweza kuwaita mbele ya kamati na tukakagua stakabadhi zao, tumepata kujionea kwamba kiwango kile cha watu wasiojiweza ama walemavu kilikuwa kiko chini ya wastani iliyokuwa inahitajika na iliyopendekezwa ndani ya katiba. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna haja, ulemavu si ugonjwa, wala kuwa mlemavu haimaanishi kwamba huwezi kufanya kazi. Hivyo kuna haja ya kwamba nyanja zote tukapati kuwahusisha na kuwaajiri walemavu. Kisungumzia hivi, ningetaka kuwa mfano katika kamati yangu ya CDF nimeweza kujumuisha walemavu ndani, na pia vile vile hata kwa wale waajiriwa wa ofisi pia nimeweza kujumuisha walemavu. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimepata kuona mlemavu wakati mwingine akiwa katibu wa kudumu katika wizara husika wakati huo ambapo tulipokuwa na mafuriko sehemu za Bate katika sehemu yangu ya bunge ya Magarini, tuliweza kuona ya kwamba anahusika vilivyo na kuhakikisha ya kwamba wale wote ambao wameathirika wakati huo wameweza kuhamishwa na kupelekwa katika sehemu ambazo ni za sawa, na pia vile vile wameweza kupelekewa chakula kutoka kwa wizara yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, kusema ule ukweli, na nikinukuu kwa lugha ile ya kigeni, disability is not inability. Uko uwezo wa kufanya vyema zaidi hata kuliko wale walio wazima. Na pia kuwa mlemavu haijamaanisha ya kwamba wewe uwe ni mtu wa kubaguliwa. Katiba imekataa masuala hayo ya kubagua walemavu na kubagua mtu mwingine yeyote yule kwa sababu ya maumbile yake. Leo hii tuwazima wengine wetu, lakini haijamaanisha kwamba uzaliwavyo ndivyo unavyozeeka. Kwa mara nyingi tumepata kuona watu wakihusika kwa ajali na hivyo kupoteza maumbile yao na kuwa walemavu. Ningeuliza bunge hili likaweze kuunga mkono taarifa hii ili kwamba tukaweze kuwaweka mahali wanapostahili walemavu kama Wakenya wengine. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
The Honorable Wanjiku Muhia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Indeed, I was waiting for this report. And first, I want to congratulate the committee. The report is very, very well done. It's a beautiful report, considering they even did an audit of 39 institutions, which can indicate how our country looks like. Honorable Speaker, I think the Act of 2003 is about to be repealed. In fact, it is in the process. And I see quite a number of beautiful points in this report. And therefore, I hope the chair and the committee will also be coming to the relevant committee to give input to improve the new act that is expected. Honorable Speaker, as this committee was doing an audit, I think it would only have been fair if they started by Parliament, because when you're auditing, it is also good if you could audit yourself. And as such, personally, I can say I have complied. I have 2 persons with disability in my constituency, not specifically in the CDF, because I know in NGCDF the law requires, but outside NGCDF, in the constituency office. And therefore, I ask the honorable members, the 290 of us and the women reps, to also audit themselves and see if they can create a position, 1 or 2. And if the country would move in that direction and the counties would also create equal opportunities, then we would be somewhere. I also want to urge the Honorable House of Senate to do a similar audit to the counties, because this is their mandate and this committee could not have audited the counties. I know the county of Uasin Gishu, I know the county of Kericho, which is rated very highly. And in fact, during the Governor Madago, he was rated the best county to have employed so many deaf persons in the county of Uasin Gishu. As we call the county governments in the rest part of the country, I ask the Senate to consider if they could do this audit, but before they do it, let us audit ourselves. Because, Honorable Speaker, we say the government, but we are the government. Before we audit the ministry, let's audit ourselves. However, Honorable Speaker, this report is based on census of 2019, which we all know it is disputed, and therefore the figures that are put here couldn't be real. We know the census in this country are after 10 years. But I may plead with the government, considering the very desperate situations that all of us have witnessed last year during the registration of Inua Jamii, when we could not register thousands of people from persons with disability because they didn't have registration numbers. I would ask if the government, now that they devolved the National Council to the counties, could review the numbers of these people and also consider to improve in funding the National Council, which is the body entitled in considering matters of the persons with disability. Honorable Speaker, 5% is a very small percentage for us to attain as a nation. If you read through the report, you find the nation of Switzerland as the best in the world to have considerably given the employment opportunity to these people. But I'm also happy that in East Africa, in our bloc, the state of Rwanda, which is our partner state, is also rated very highly to have considered this. Honorable Speaker, time and again, persons with disability have lived on donations as if they are not citizens, and they live waiting for whatever happens in their life. It's time that the government make deliberate move, consider them, fund them through the budget in the avenues that they are working with, like the National Council, the Social Security, and the Ministry of Labor, and consider them just like Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, there is, of course, a conversation of the caregivers today. We may consider to give persons with disability jobs, but in the event it is not possible, the caregivers can be given the jobs and they can work and provide the essentials to their loved ones, and that data can be put as serving the person with the disability. I want to congratulate the Lake Victoria South Waterworks Development Agency for having been the highest out.
The Honorable James Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this. Mr. Speaker, this report is extremely important. It is looking at Article 54, and although it confines itself to 54.2, which is just basically about the employment, the 5% that is required for institutions to offer persons with disability. But Mr. Speaker, it actually needs to, and to some extent addresses the whole of 54. Mr. Speaker, there's no way we can attain the requirement of 54.2 if we do not look at the rest of 54, particularly B, which says access to educational institutions and facilities for persons with disability that are integrated into education system. Education is key to being employed. So there's no way you will think I'll get to 5 if you don't address education. If you look at C, Mr. Speaker, access to all places, public transport, and information. How can one actually get a job, do a job, if they don't have physical access, if they don't have access to information? So those are critical as a prerequisite. Now, if you look at D, the use of sign language and braille. If you cannot communicate, if you cannot read materials, Mr. Speaker, how will you get access to employment? So, Mr. Speaker, it is 54.2, but the truth is that it must address the whole of 54. And there's an attempt in this, Mr. Speaker. If you look at the report on its observations on paragraph 5.2, it actually clearly indicates the challenges that need to be addressed. For example, in 1, all institutions should have constructed ramps to aid mobility. Now, that includes schools, that includes working places, so that must be done. If you look at even public facilities like toilets, you must make sure that those are accessible. If you look at institutions of training, if there is no sign language, and I know when sign language became a national language, I remember that time during the process of the Constitution 2010. It is important, and only the media, particularly the television network, actually have implemented this appropriately. I see it in most meetings. I don't know whether it's really working in schools. Mr. Speaker, we really need even to have braille for every person who is blind. If you look at the leaves that we have, sometimes people see talking leaves, they think it's just modern. Basically, that is a requirement. Some leaves even have braille. So people have not noticed. So all these are actually required. But it also indicates mainstreaming of disability in all institutions. Mr. Speaker, whatever we do, if all institutions do not realize and put in place and monitor the requirements of persons with disability, there is no way we'll achieve the employment that we are looking for. So, Mr. Speaker, I've looked at this report and the recommendations that it has put in place. They say within 3 months, all public institutions should review human resource policies to enhance representation of persons with disabilities. That can only happen if, in the first place, you have enabled, you have capacity built the persons with disabilities, you have given them the provisions that they require in the learning institutions way before that. So that's something. Within 6 months, in consultation with other stakeholders, are aimed at reviewing the Disability Act. In fact, that is extremely important. I know the Disability Act, there is an effort to review it. And so that must be done. But, Mr. Speaker, I will summarize it that mainstreaming is extremely important for this. Registration, we have a proper process of registration of persons with.
The Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I want to, on the very, very onset, stand to support this motion. First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, disability is not inability, is not sickness. When you are disabled, doesn't mean you are unable. You can do quite a number of things, and it's not that because you are sick. You are just physically disabled, and that could be, as we have all witnessed in our lives, that's actually God's creation. God actually created people like that. I've, for example, in my constituency, hired 2 very disabled fellows, and I want to tell this house, these guys are very hardworking, very sharp. If you have anything, those are the fellows I normally send out. And therefore, disability is not inability, it's not sickness. So we should be given equal opportunity to be able to work. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, again, there are people who are discriminative. And because somebody is disabled, it will maybe put on a wheelchair or something like that, they can't employ him. When this person can be able to work even better than an MD. And therefore, we should actually make this aware. People should be able to know that somebody, it doesn't matter if he's unable, but as long as he's actually able, and most of these people are very, very sharp. I have in my family one person who is actually disabled. And I can tell you, he has been doing so well as a teacher. And above all, his children are very sharp. In fact, 2 of these children are now, one is doing actually PhD. And the other one is doing other things and has been actually been able to get an opportunity to go to work in Germany. And that is, you look at the person, the father of this, you can't believe that he's a father. So most of it, that much as God has not given you the ability to do 1 or 2 things physically, but when it comes to the brains, oh boy, I can tell you that these people are normally very sharp. So therefore, I think this motion has come at the right time, and we want to take up this opportunity and encourage that institutions, schools, and any other area that has got that kind of, like when you are doing construction, they should be able to have at least the construct a way where the inability to get to the place where other people are enjoying should be able to be provided, a ramp, in the other words, in schools, so that sometimes I gave a contract to one of the contractors and was building a story building for the second school, and there was no provision for inability. I said, now, today, of course, you don't have one, but tomorrow, there'll be somebody who actually is not able to walk up to the first floor. And therefore, I told him, I said, you now have to construct a ramp at your own cost, because you can't have a story building without a ramp. So therefore, the motion has come at the right time, and therefore we should be able to assist those who are unable. And those who are not able to see, and again, we should be able to have institutions so that the sign languages are actually taught in some areas, so that those who are not able to see and whatever, they can be taught in those institutions. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to say this is a motion that has come at the right time, and I wholly support this motion. Thank you. The Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also stand to support the report by the Committee of National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity, which I am a member of the same committee. Honorable Speaker, first of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our able leadership led by the Chair, Yusuf Adan, and our Vice, Lisa Chelule, on the very comprehensive report from the committee. And Honorable Speaker, first of all, I'd just like to point out some of the observations that we made while we were interviewing some of the institutions, the public institutions that we did interview. And Honorable Speaker, considering the fact that our Constitution in Article 54, subsection 2, it has been very clearly indicated that the ideal percentage for persons with disability in public institutions should be 5%. But Honorable Speaker, out of the 39 institutions that we did interview, only actually 24 fell short of that compliance. That is a total of 61% of those interviewed, which gives you an average of 2.1% of the persons with disability who are employed in our public institutions. Honorable Speaker, one of the things that we noticed was lacking is lack of an adequate and comprehensive policy in these institutions that clearly laid out the requirements for them to be able to have persons with disability there. The other issue was on the limited outreach, because each and every institution that we got an opportunity to interview were telling us that they were not having enough people who were persons with disability interviewing or coming forward to say that they wanted these particular jobs. Honorable Speaker, the other issue also that we noticed was the issue of staff training, lack of adequate number of staff who actually had adequate training on sign language or how to handle persons with disability. And Honorable Speaker, when you look at the report and notice some of the recommendations you made, the unique thing about our report is that not only did we make recommendations, but that we also gave a timeline for each and every recommendation that we made as a committee. For instance, Honorable Speaker, we indicated very clearly that we want to ensure that in 3 months, public institutions have human resource policies that directly spoke about and had issues in reference to persons with disability. Honorable Speaker, another recommendation that we did make to all these institutions was that we asked them if they had even taken into consideration speaking to members of parliament or constituency offices, because we noted very clearly that members of parliament in their offices, they do have database of persons with disability within their constituencies. And one of the recommendations we made to the NCPWD was that they should check their database once more, compare notes with members of parliament to ensure that their database is actually updated to have a reflection of all the 290 constituencies and ensure they do have persons with disability in their records. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, that we recommended was the proactive registration of the database and updating of the same And this we recommended as a committee that we want it done in 3 months. So therefore, which means that we will check again with the NCPWD to ensure that their records are up to date. Honorable Speaker, another recommendation that we strongly gave consideration was on the public institutions' collaboration with health insurance. Because one of the things that came up was that the health insurance coverage fund did not take into consideration how expensive it is for persons with disability to acquire their mobility tools like wheelchairs, like crutches, because this in most insurance funds is not covered. And finally, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I just want to encourage the persons with disability who are out there, because we have had so many success stories of persons with disability who have actually confirmed that disability is not inability. And therefore, mine is just to urge them to ensure that they're actually registered with the National Council for Persons with Disability, and that even for our fellow members of parliament who are here, to ensure that they have updated their records of persons with disability within their constituencies, and they're also communicating effectively with this board to ensure that whenever opportunities come into hand, they're given this. I submit and support the report.
The Honorable Timothy Toroitich.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for granting me an opportunity to contribute on this very important motion. This report. Honorable Chair, I wish to thank the committee for this very comprehensive report that they have submitted before this House. Honorable Speaker, persons with disability have for a long time been neglected in this country. Honorable Speaker, our Constitution is not a mere suggestion. It is the law of the land. It is the highest ranking law in our country. And therefore, by the mere fact that PWDs, their rights have been anchored in the Constitution, means that they have been given the highest right under the laws of this country. Honorable Speaker, if you read critically, our article 54, 1 and 2, provides very clearly the rights of persons with disability. Honorable Speaker, if you read Article 54.1, it says that a person with disability is entitled to. Chair, the word entitled means mandatory. Is entitled to certain constitutional rights. One of them being access to educational institutions and facilities that are integrated into the society. Honorable Speaker, even before the issue of employment, there is a challenge in access to educational institutions by persons living with disabilities. Honorable Speaker, we need to relook and ensure that our institutions handling persons with disabilities and the children are properly equipped and with facilities that will assist those children get education. Honorable Speaker, further, if you read 54.1.2.1c, it says they are entitled to reasonable access to all places of public and as well as transport. Honorable Speaker, we must align even our public institutions so that those living with disabilities are able to access those particular institutions. Honorable Speaker, Article 54.2, the subject of this debate, provides very clearly that PWDs shall, that the state shall, Honorable Speaker, it is not a suggestion, it is mandatory, that they shall ensure the progressive implementation of the principle that at least, Honorable Speaker, at least 5% of members of public in elective and appointive positions is entitled to PWDs. Honorable Speaker, I have read the report. The committee has noted very well that out of the 5% provided for by the Constitution, only, as we speak, only 2.1% of public institutions have complied with that particular constitutional principle. Honorable Speaker, it means that the remainder of 2.9%, we must take comprehensive steps as a house, as a country, so that we can be able to comply with this particular provision. Honorable Speaker, it is shameful that out of the 39 sampled public institutions, only one institution, that is the Lake Basin Development Authority, has been able to comply with the 5% threshold. Honorable Speaker, we must, as a country, be able to take care of these people. Honorable Speaker, under the PWD Act of 2003, we must be able to relook, because that is the legislation that provides very clearly that for the fundamental rights of persons living with disability. Honorable Speaker, for that reason, we must be able to amend that particular provision, that particular Act of Parliament. We must be able to amend it so that we align it with Article 54(2) of the Constitution and have these rights of persons living with disabilities clearly outlined and anchored in that particular legal provision. Honorable Speaker, finally, we need a report for this House, a comprehensive report by this particular committee on all public institutions outlining the compliance of the minimum threshold of at least 5%. Honorable Speaker, if that report is before this House, then it will inform amendments to the parent act, that is the National Council for Persons Living with Disabilities Act. Honorable Speaker, I submit.
Thank you very much, Member for Marakwet West. The Honorable Njeri Maina, Member for Kirinyaga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support and commend the committee for this report. And Honorable Speaker, before I proceed, allow me to just highlight that it is not that 2.1% of institutions have complied. It is only, the compliance level is only at 2.1%. The Constitution, Article 54(2) is very clear. It says at the very least. That means that the threshold we should be looking at should be more than 5%. It is very disappointing that of the 39 institutions, public institutions for that matter, Honorable Speaker, that the committee visited, only one had fully complied with the requirement of not less than 5%. Honorable Speaker, Article 27 of the Constitution, in its entirety, and in specific Clause 4, indicates that no person should suffer any discrimination because they are differently abled. Honorable Speaker, we have the legislation in place. We have the policy of various relevant ministries in place, but we fail at implementation. Honorable Speaker, it is the same thing that happens to the 30% for AGPO that is supposed to be set aside for women, PWDs, and the youth to access opportunities from public and private institutions. And it is quite a disappointing thing, Honorable Speaker. We cannot only have the law in academia. The law was supposed, or rather the intention of the drafters, was for the Constitution of 2010 to be wholly implemented. Honorable Speaker, we must also ask ourselves, do we have performance indicators? Do we have evaluation mechanisms to ensure that once we have these policies in place, that they're actually being complied to? Honorable Speaker, it is also very disappointing to note that oftentimes the society looks at differently abled persons as bothersome, as if they're too needy. Honorable Speaker, I had the privilege of having a discussion at the People's Dialogue Festival with representatives of persons living with disability. And firsthand, you can tell that they are disadvantaged from the very dint that they were created that way, or sometimes perhaps along the way in life they had accidents. And it is a very unfortunate situation that we must also focus on mainstreaming implementation in even the private sector. Most of these institutions, they lack the basic infrastructure, mere basic infrastructure, to ensure that differently abled persons have access to these facilities, even health facilities, despite the fact that there is law in place and the 203 Act stipulates that differently abled persons must be facilitated with infrastructure to ensure that they access certain facilities. It is therefore the right time, and I have seen that the committee has recommended implementation within 3 months. Of course, perhaps they can give some more time for implementation and also follow up. I want to request the committee to follow up on whether it has actually been implemented, because we do not even need any subsidiary legislation. The law and the constitution is very clear. That means that those institutions are not compliant with the constitution of 2010. So, as a house, we must ensure that we fully implement the 2010 constitutions and support persons living with disability. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Gideon Mulyungi, member for Mwingi Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this report from the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities. And I want to start by congratulating the chair and the committee. The chair is my neighbor. He passes through my constituency to his home, and I know he's a very able man. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I listened to him speaking, and as a former vice chair of that committee, I understand what he was talking about, and I support the contents of his document in total. Madam Speaker, the Constitution provides that all public institutions must comply with appointment of persons with disabilities up to 5%. And from the report that has been tabled, it is very clear that majority of the institutions in Kenya do not comply. Only one out of those which were interviewed complied. Madam Speaker, people living with disabilities are normally disadvantaged. And anybody, anytime, whether born or thereafter, can be disabled. You recall, Madam Speaker, the former president of Kenya, President Mwai Kibaki, became the president of Kenya on a wheelchair. And that was the epitome of compliance of this constitutional requirement. And I think that is why President Mwai Kibaki was the founder of the Constitution. Madam Speaker, the spirit of the Constitution 54(2) is that this provision should be complied with progressively over time. And since we promulgated the Constitution, 2010 is now well over 10 years, 14 years. And in my view, all the institutions within 14 years ought to have complied with this provision. And therefore, I want to implore on this committee to crack the whip to ensure that all the government institutions comply with this provision. Madam Speaker, you realize that in most of the public buildings and even public places, PWDs are normally not provided for. You'll find buildings with no ramp access. You'll find even places where even toilets, there are no provisions for toilets to assist the disabled. Even in restaurants, there is no provision where a disabled person will enjoy themselves in a restaurant, even in bars and clubs. There is no provision. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I agree totally with the recommendations of this committee that we should revise the law to ensure compliance by all the institutions to make it mandatory, so that if you don't, you have broken the law. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I support. Asante sana.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Jackson Lemontare, member for Samburu East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to support this report. Madam Speaker, just as other speakers have said, disability is not inability. And Madam Speaker, we have the Constitution and there is the Act. What we are lacking, Madam Speaker, is the compliance of the same or implementation. If at this time, Madam Speaker, we are still talking of these people with a disability not able to access some places. And I think, Madam Speaker, this disability, it is very important for us to know as a country. In Kenya, there are a lot of issues even when it comes to employment. And we are talking about the employment of disability people, and even it is reported, Mr. Speaker, that even the employment of people in some sectors is only very few community members are employed. So it is very important for us, first of all, Mr. Speaker, barriers should be removed so that the disabled can access almost all the services, Mr. Speaker. And I think, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the employment of disabled people, the employers have sometimes doubt about their performance. And people still have a lot of negativity towards the disabled people. And I think it is our high time as a country to implement fully the Constitution and even the Act, Mr. Speaker. It does not help the disabled people to have laws written on paper, but when it comes to implementation, that is where we lack. And I think everybody should be compliant with the labor laws, Mr. Speaker. And maybe even us as members of parliament, the 290 constituencies and the offices of women representatives, we must start from there, that each and every member of parliament should be able to employ these disabled people in our offices. Because if maybe we are here talking about the same, but what have we done as members of parliament? Mr. Speaker, the defeat logic, maybe if us as members of parliament, we may not have fulfilled that. And what is rightfully for the disabled people, Mr. Speaker, should be given to them. And Mr. Speaker, even when it comes to contracts and this work which are done by people, the percentage left there is very small for the disabled people, and again they are not given that. So, Mr. Speaker, it is a high time we have to implement the Constitution comply with the article of, concerning the disabled, and I think it will be good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
The Honorable Shakil Shabir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I support the report in the way that they have presented it. However, I have some concerns in respect of the language they have used towards their recommendations. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution is very clear. It says 5% of all employment on all public institutions must be the absolute minimum. The committee carried out an inquiry, but the main objective of the inquiry was to assess the ethnic and diversity representation within public institutions, specifically PWD, persons with disability. It is absolutely clear that there are they came up with the point 2.1% of those institutions that they inquired, not of all institutions. I would have required now for a list of all institutions of public institutions, those who have not met that 5%, because that is an offense. The committee says public institutions should review their public human resources policies within 3 months. There isn't should, must. That within 6 months, the NCPD should initiate, of course, amendment of the Disability Act, I agreed. Within 6 months, public institutions should formulate and put into effect comprehensive disability mainstreaming policies. These are not should. That is why I disagree with the report in its recommendation with the word should be replaced with must. I would also like, but I mean, it's a great report. It's done a lot of work, but that's my only point of that I do not agree with. This is economic injustice, and economic injustice to the disabled, PWDs, is against the Constitution of this country. It's one of the pillars of Constitution, economic injustice. If they are not being given their right of a minimum of 5%, it's an economic injustice. It's against the Constitution. And I feel that this report must be more firm in its recommendations. Mr. Speaker, sir, equality and equity is not the same. Equity demands a minimum of 5%. Equality would ask for difference. There is, Mr. Speaker, also a feeling that it's something that I've seen, that we do not, as members of parliament, give enough support to our members, our PWD, in our constituencies. And I would want to make sure that we also, our constituencies also should be audited. A report should be given by our constituencies telling the Speaker how many PWDs we have. Finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is another association of persons with disabilities who get funded directly from the Office of the President. NCPD, NCPWD gets funded from the budget. But this other one is headed by a great lady, Christina Pratt. But they have much more money than the other one. And I would like to point out today that I think these two institutions must be amalgamated and they're doing the same thing, and they should be put together, and we have a joint approach. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
The Honorable Maina Malenge.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to this report. I am a member of the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity Committee. Honorable Speaker, one of the realizations that this committee came to is that it is not sufficient for the Constitution to provide for rights for Kenyans to enjoy those rights. And, Honorable Speaker, going by the inquiry and the contact that we've had with the sagas and ministries, including the Public Service Commission, it is a sad state of affairs in terms of how we treat our persons living with disabilities when it comes to employment. Honorable Speaker, if this report had been more inclusive in terms of the access to the 30% reservations for persons living with disability, then we begin to see how unfair and unjust we are as a nation. Honorable Speaker, in a report by the Public Service Commission published in the year 2014, across the nation, the employment for persons living with disabilities was less than 1%. At this point in time, 10 years down the line, 14 years of implementing the new constitution, we have only had a 1.1% rise. And therefore, if we extrapolate this, we begin to see that it will take us close to 50 years for the persons living with disability at this rate to realize their allocation of 5%. This is untenable. Most of the sagas, in an attempt to address the issue of persons living with disabilities, only go as far as having a disability mainstreaming committee within the executive of the saga. However, these committees have little tangible action to show. Honorable Speaker, violation of our Constitution must have consequences. And therefore, I'm urging this House to actually go a step further and recommend that the violation of the rights of persons living with disability by public and state officers should be classified as a gross violation of the Constitution, with the potential of having CEOs dismissed on account of denying persons living with disability their chances. Honorable Speaker, when we look at training opportunities for skills for persons living with disability, it is a national shame. We visited one institution that I believe may be the only dedicated institution for offering secondary education to persons living with disability. And they had a gym that had nothing other than the walls. That institution has been left to rely on companies that have corporate social responsibilities because we have no dedicated funding for those programs. When we go to teachers who have been trained in special education, they have been frustrated in terms of promotions when TSC does promotions. Honorable Speaker, we must, as a nation, take reasonable action towards disability mainstreaming and undertake deliberate affirmative action in assisting our brothers and sisters who are in this state. In ending, Honorable Speaker, the medical care for persons living with disabilities sometimes requires supplements that are very costly. It will be necessary for this House to consider exempting supplements
that are used by persons living with disabilities from tax. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support the report.
The Honorable Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to congratulate and thank the committee for the report. Mr. Speaker, as a person who has worked on the issues of equality, equity, and inclusion over the years, I think the report of the committee is timely. Mr. Speaker, in Kenya, the challenge is not the issue of a lack of a legislative framework. The issue is on implementation. The Constitution is very clear, as is indicated in the committee report, and it's just a question of compliance to Article 54(2) of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution is very clear about the number of people or the percentage of persons with disability that should be employed in government entities. And Mr. Speaker, because of our entrenched culture of impunity, we think that we actually pass laws for the sake of passing laws. And because of that, we are not committed to ensuring that we actually give effect to the laws that we have passed. And I want to challenge the Committee on Implementation that other than the report that has been brought by the specific committees, they should also follow up and ensure that when we pass laws, that the laws are actually implemented. Mr. Speaker, it's not even just this one. There's even a law that I passed here on Victim Protection Act, which is an excellent piece of legislation. And we have refused to operationalize that act. So the challenge that we're having as a country is the culture of impunity and non-implementation of laws. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to say much about persons with disability because all of us know the challenges that they go through. I just want to challenge the committee that beyond the issue of the numbers that are employed or the ones that are not employed according to the Constitution, I also would like the committee to also do an audit of public buildings or infrastructure and how friendly they are to persons with disability. One of the other issues, Mr. Speaker, that I think we need to also look at very keenly is very clear, to be very clear and to have disaggregated data on the kinds of disability and how widespread they are, even by gender. And the reason is because persons with disability who are women tend to face even greater challenges than persons of disability who are male. And I'll give an example of there's a family in my constituency in Bitter Point area around Milimani, of a woman whose husband had a disability. And the woman herself has children with 5 children with severe disabilities. And I don't even want to call them children because they are adults actually. And you find that these persons with severe disabilities are raped, they have children, nobody can take care of them. And Mr. Speaker, one of the things I would want to challenge the committee to do is to recommend for the government to set up an institution that can fully take care of cases of severe disabilities. Because when you leave an individual to be the one taking care of persons with severe disabilities, then you are affecting the mental health of that person. Very recently, I think many of us saw a young lady who went viral because she was complaining that she has a mother who is suffering schizophrenia and she has a brother who has a severe disability. She has to take care of the mother with a mental challenge. She has to take care of the brother. And Mr. Speaker, this lady was appealing and she was saying she's appointed, she's about to commit suicide. Why should we commit suicide when we can actually put resources as a country to help in such situations? Mr. Speaker, I would want to encourage the committee to explore the institutionalization that is covered by the government of persons with severe disabilities and persons that have lasting mental challenges, because it's too much a strain on the persons who are their caregivers. Mr. Speaker, my time is up, but otherwise I want to thank the committee for a good report.
Very well. The Honorable Moses Injendi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I arise also to support this motion, and particularly Honorable MP Yusuf for this particular report. Mr. Speaker, I wish to start by highlighting what the article says. The state shall ensure, Article 54(2), the state shall ensure the progressive implementation of the principle that at least 5% of the members of the public, elective and appointed bodies are persons with disability. Speaker, we may want to really talk harshly against these institutions. But from where I'm sitting and reading this, you see, it talks of progressive. And therefore, it becomes a challenge to anyone, even to sue them. Because if you are to sue any person, then he quotes this, which talks of progressive. Progressive means what? How long? So I would that maybe the committee may consider coming up with an act of parliament which actually can stipulate up to what point this should be implemented to get 5%. Speaker, the other challenge we have in the country is when you're talking of employment of these persons. There are some jobs that are very specific. They want someone who is a professor, someone who has a master's, someone who has a specific qualification. Speaker, we want to face the matter practically. Do we have institutions in the country that train or can train persons of disability to this particular level? And if there are, how many are they? Do we have sufficient teachers in the country? Speaker, this is a matter that the country or a parliament or the committee should look at deeply. It's not as it is at face value. We are aware that most families have persons with disability, but this person, even accessing education, is a challenge. The current CBC is talking of integrated kind of education in our schools, where persons of disability can also join. Speaker, I'm aware of families that are not willing even to take their children to such schools because disability in our country, in our community, is a shame. It's a curse. And therefore, taking them to school where other normal children are is a challenge. And even those children, when they are there, those who are very normal, they keep off these particular pupils. So even if you talk of employment, do we have these particular persons having necessary qualifications for employment? No, it's not there. Do we have these institutions that have to train them? They are not there. So Sheikh Yusuf, it's not only a matter of recommending those timelines, but it's a whole process to do with also educational system. Speaker, I've been wondering, when it comes to the forces in this country, that's KDF, police, prisons, NYS, how come when they advertise for these particular positions, you see, they do not consider persons with disability? And they're very clear about that if you have an eye problem, if you have one of the fingers, Mr. Speaker, look at it, just one finger being shot, you are not admitted into the forces. Is this a way of discrimination against persons with disability? What has a finger, losing just a small finger, one of it, what has it to do with performing the functions of a KDF officer or a police officer or a prison officer? So, Speaker, I can see my time is up. We have to come up with a specific law that has timelines. Because even as we are aware, some of the institutions, public institutions, do not have spaces or channels or a path that this person with disability can actually use to access offices. And this is just one way that demonstrates as a country, we are still very negative. We are not sensitive to persons with disability. Otherwise, I support and thank Sheikh Yusuf, Chairman of Coalition. Thank you.
The Honorable Martin Owino.
Mr. Speaker, the opportunity is much appreciated, and from the onset, I want to say I support this bill, and I say kudos to my chair. Honorable Yusuf have been very passionate, and the whole team in looking into issues of disabilities. Honorable Speaker, in the census of 2019, 2.2% of Kenyans were found disabled. And that can be put in figure to 1 million. Could be more now because a lot of population have surged. It is very interesting and saddening that the 39 samples we have of these companies did not meet the requirement. In other words, when we were looking at the public, the status of the compliance and also cadres distributing across all departments, friendly environment measures, and experiences and challenges which goes with it, we found they were not compliant, and that is not acceptable. Mr. Speaker, disability occurs in many forms. It's a condition that limits people, either movement or mental or even activities, and it can occur to anybody. The irony is that even when you are employed fit as we are now, most of us, still you can get disability within the job. And then you are scaled down to be deployed without even any policy. You have had some in the military stand down and then you're put to be receptionists. You don't even know how to handle phones. So we were recommending policies that should make environment very conducive, training even people who are trained to train disability people, very clear, to avoid stigmatization and also to make the environment where they operate very conducively. So, Mr. Speaker, we recommended some interventions which we are asking to be strictly implemented. One of them was strict human resource policies, because they're here and there. There's nothing very much tailored to this category of people in these companies. We were also asking that the strategy for recruitment should be changed. For example, if you put job advertisement in a local newspaper or in a website, you think they will see, or you use their organization, and you think they will be alerted that there's a job here. It doesn't work that way. And we suggested that the offices of the area members of parliament would be more convenient to send messages, because if you come to Ndewa, you will find a file, a folder with all the people who are disabled with their capabilities. So if there's a job opening, you could easily be alerted and apply. Mr. Speaker, we are also saying that we should be getting regular reports. And Chair, I think after changing the standing order, we can implement this 3 months report so that we know these anomalies which we got during these interrogations, there is improvement. They are employing more. They are availing more tenders to disabled, because sometimes we wait for 1 year to lapse and then we have nothing. Lastly, I want to say that people living with disability are central to social and economical development. And any discrimination will even increase poverty and pressure to the family, leave alone the person living with a disability. So this social exclusivity should be stopped. And I think, Chair, we need to do more on this. We just did 39, but there are so many companies out there that are not complying. So with that, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I hope we'll continue to interrogate more. Thank you.
Very well. Now then, Speaker's prerogative, the Honorable Rose Museo.
Oh, thank you. Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi hii ili nikaweze kuchangia katika ripoti hii.
Namshukuru sana mwenyekiti ambao ameweza kuleta ripoti hii ya juu ya watu ambao wana changamoto ama kwa jina lingine tunasema walio na ulemavu. Ripoti hii imekuja kwa wakati wake. Niseme ya kwamba sisi kama wengi wa Kenya, wananchi wa Kenya, ni kwamba jambo hili hatulizingatii sana, na kwamba ajira kupatia watu ambao walio na ulemavu imekuwa ni shida kubwa. Ni kwamba tunapoangalia tunaona ya kwamba hawawezi, na pia ni wachache ambao wamesoma na kupata umaarufu wa kazi ambao wanaweza kuandikwa. Kwa hiyo napata kwamba kamati hii ningeomba ikaweze kuangalia sana juu ya watoto hawa kuanzia mwanzo pale shule. Unakuta kwamba wale ambao wamesoma ni wale ambao wametoka katika familia zina uwezo, lakini ukiwa mlemavu na umetoka katika familia ambayo haina mapato vizuri ama kuna umaskini fulani, unakuta kwamba hata wewe kuenda shule ni shida, ama kwenda shule ya upili pia inakuwa ni shida. Kwa hivyo wanazidi kukaa nyumbani na kukosa kazi. Sheria zipo ambazo zimetungwa na ziko ambazo zina mwelekezo ya kwamba walio na ulemavu wakaweze kusaidika na kuandikwa, lakini nakuata kwamba hatufuatilii. Ingekuwa ni vyema paweze kuwa na sheria kwamba hakuna ofisi inafaa kuendelea za kiserikali zisizo ambazo pia si za kiserikali, ya kwamba wakaweze kuambiwa ni lazima paweze kuwa na mtu mmoja ambaye pia ni mlemavu ambaye yuko pale kazini. Na ulemavu si kidole peke yake. Unaweza kuta kwamba nasema tumeweka mtu mlemavu lakini ana kidole kimekatika. Pana, tunataka kuona ulemavu kabisa ambao pia wamepatiwa nafasi ili tukaweze kuwaingiza ndani ya kazi, ya kwamba tukaweze kuwa na watu wa kwenda round maofisini kuangalia kama sheria hii imeweza kutekelezwa. Niseme ninapoendelea kuunga mkono ripoti hii, niseme ya kwamba kulikuwa zamani na social workers ama wafanyikazi wa kiserikali walikuwa wanatembelea nyumba kwa nyumba kuangalia watoto walio na ulemavu, lakini jambo hili ni kama lilikaja likaisha, na wengi unakuta kwamba wazazi wengi watoto wao hawapeleki shule kwa sababu ya kile Kiingereza wanakiita stigma, ama kwa sababu wanaogopa ya kwamba ni kama laana fulani ndio maana kuna ulemavu. Ulemavu ni jambo ambalo linafaa kuzingatiwa sana Kenya, ndio tuone ya kwamba walemavu hawa wamepata nafasi. Nikiwa katika ofisi yangu, Bwana Spika, kesi nyingi ambazo ninapata za ubakaji ya watoto, wengi ni walemavu. Wengi ambao ni walemavu sasa wameanza kuingiliwa, kwa maana hawawezi kukimbia, hawawezi kufanya lolote. Unapata ya kwamba wanaume wachokozi wanakuja kulemea wale wasichana wa kike, watoto wa kike walemavu, na inakuwa kwamba security yao ningeomba pia ingeweza kuangaliwa na kuangaliwa ni jinsi gani wanaweza kusaidika. Otherwise mimi nasema kwamba ninaunga mkono ripoti hiyo, na jambo hilo linafaa kuangaliwa kwa dharura kabisa, jinsi ambavyo tunaweza kuwasaidia walio na ulemavu. Mimi ni mtu ambaye nilikuwa natembea vizuri, lakini leo niko na ulemavu. Kwa hivyo naelewa changamoto ya kuwa unapotembea ukiwa mzuri na ukiwa na ulemavu. Ni jambo ambalo lina shida sana, na naomba kwamba watu hawa wakaangaliwe. Pia usajili wao ukaangaliwa, maana wengi unakuta kwamba wanatafuta kupata ile kadi ya ulemavu, inakuwa pia ni shida kuipata. Tafadhali kamati yasema asante kwa hiyo report. Thank you.
The Honorable Francis Sigei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to support this very comprehensive report, Mr. Speaker. But on the onset, I would like to thank the committee for an excellent report which they have brought to this House. Mr. Speaker, I want to state that this report is a tip of the iceberg. And we have a lot of things going out there. Mr. Speaker, I sit in the PIC, Public Investments Committee. And Mr. Speaker, we have been doing some audit in the universities, the TVET institutions, and Mr. Speaker, I want to say here that on this issue of PWDs, these institutions have failed very miserably. And Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy that this committee have brought out these issues. Mr. Speaker, as said by my colleagues, our Constitution is very clear. Article 54(2) is very clear. The laws of this country are very clear. The Act, which deals with specifically on disabilities, is also very clear. I think, Chair, I want to support Mr. Speaker that the issue here is mainly lack of compliance and enforcement of the existing laws. And Mr. Speaker, I want to request the committee which has done a very good job to look again, let us re-examine the existing laws. Bring these amendments to the House so that we can be able to discuss these issues and take appropriate action in terms of legislation. And Mr. Speaker, I want this House to take this role seriously. And let us make sure that those people who are violating these laws, who are not abiding by the Constitution, are given punitive actions which can make them not to forget in their lives. Mr. Speaker, the issue of procurement, the law on procurement is very clear. It talks about giving some specific percentage to these people who are living with disabilities. But how many comply with this act? Chair, we need to look at ourselves. Even as members of parliament, Mr. Speaker, I don't know how many of us are complying to this rule, to this law. Because really, it says that of all the procurement, of all the tenders in the entire country, we must give specific percentage to people living with disabilities. And the Chair, the Speaker, I want to say I support this report. In my constituency, Mr. Speaker, I have carried out assessment of people living with disabilities in my constituency. And I managed to get 1,084 people living with disabilities. What I am now doing, Mr. Speaker, is to look for how best we can assist. Because unless you know the extent to which they are disabled and what they really require in their life, it's very difficult to assist. So, Chair, I am, as an MP of Sotik, I am committed to making sure that what the chairman has brought up here, I support in my as a starting point. So, Mr. Speaker, this report I fully support, and I want to thank the chair and this committee for doing a fantastic job. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Jackson Kosgei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to say I support the report by the Committee on the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities by my friend, the chairperson, Honorable Yusuf Adan Haji. Thank you for the good work. Well done. Thank you for being bold to sample organizations and institutions of government that have not demonstrated their response to the demands by the law in all facets as given by our Constitution. It is a shame that in that sample, over 99% of the institutions representing other government sagas and agencies have not been able to fulfill the demand of the law in meeting the rights for persons with disability. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to quote from Mahatma Gandhi in some of his sayings. This was an Indian philosopher and who is the founder of the modern-day India. He said these words, and I quote, that the true source of rights is duty. If we all discharge our duties, rights will not be far to seek. Mr. Speaker, if we do not implement, and I draw my attention to the recommendation given by the committee, and I think I support every part of it up to number 7, the way it is. Allow me to highlight my support by paying attention to number 1, number 2, and 5. Mr. Speaker, that the institutions that really would like to practice a secret, we call it in management for a bureaucratic disentitlement and discrimination, it is a silent policy that the disadvantaged people and people who are vulnerable in institution are silently disentitled of the rights they have in an organization if public institutions cannot pay attention in their policies, and especially the human resource instruments. The second thing that I have seen from their recommendation, Mr. Speaker, and I support, is that we need to strengthen organizations, and especially the National Council for Persons Living with Disabilities, whose bill is due for a review, and it is about to come into this House. And because it has been taken over to become a government bill, I wish to appeal to the leader of majority to hasten to bring that bill to the House so that we can review it, amend it, make sure that the gaps that exist in its implementation will serve as a shield. It is not enough to feel that we are entitled. It should go beyond and make sure that the law is responsive enough. I also agree that in the depoling of this particular report, it should be implemented as recommended by the committee. With this, Mr. Speaker, I support the report, and thank you again, the committee, for the good work under your leadership, Yusuf, as a chair. Thank you so much.
Because I told you, all I'm saying is, you write a letter dated 19th December. You say I'm enclosing an M-Pesa statement.
Yes.
The M-Pesa statement turns out to have been on 29th of January 2024, long after 19th of December, meaning you did not have this M-Pesa statement on 19th of December.
That's why I told
Which
you.
in effect means you wrote this letter after 29th of January 2024, and both yourself and Honorable Sioja, backdated it. You backdated it to 19th of December and prepared a stamp with Honorable Sioja dated 21st of December 2023.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Yes.
I will, anyway, it is true from where we stand. Honorable Speaker, I would like my colleague, Mr. Kevin Michuki, to ask a few questions, probably about 10 minutes, and then we are done. Thank you.
Senator Gloria Ruobo, what's your intervention on this?
Council, just hold.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to intervene when Senior Counsel was there because we are following the proceedings, Mr. Speaker, and I feel that they are not allowing for the witness to answer. So if they can just allow for the witness to answer, because we are also following, we are not getting the...
Very well noted.
Yeah, they are badgering the witness.
That is passed. Senior Counsel has already concluded with the witness. Counsel, proceed and ask your questions.
Perhaps, Mr. Speaker, sir, before Council addresses you, we were cautioned that we have 4 hours. Just for guidance purposes, do our 4 hours include the cross-examination session and time consumed?
Yes, Counsel for the County Assembly. Remember, the directions given was that you've been given 4 hours wholesome, which means it's inclusive of your examination in chief, cross-exam, and re-exam. So you have so far, I believe, we started at 2:30, or rather 3:30. You've done almost 2 hours of your time.
Then to that effect, will there be equality of arms? And I'm guided by your directions, Mr. Speaker, so that then the defense does not eat into our time, because that could be their strategy as well. And we still have 5 more witnesses aligned. Could we get directions as to how do we get equality of arms in that respect?
Proceed mindful of the time that is provided for the County Assembly as well as the defense, as we will deal with it as we progress. Senator Okoli.
Thank you. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Yangu yalikuwa kwamba lazima nipate mwelekeo Mheshimiwa Spika. Viongozi senators walio hapa si vyema wao kuchukua nafasi kana kwamba ni mawakili ama wawakilishi wa either washukiwa ama washtakiwa katika mswada huu Mheshimiwa Spika. Wawache kesi iendelee jinsi inavyopaswa.
Yes, Senator Sifuna.
Perhaps, Chair, then the indication would be, I don't know if in the program there was specification of the amount of time to be taken in cross-examination, so that we have a fair idea of how much time is left for cross-exam. Even the counsel of the DG, I'm sure would want to know how much time he's playing with.
As earlier on indicated, the intervention, or rather the time that was given at the point of starting these proceedings was that 4 hours is availed to the County Assembly. The 4 hours was wholesome. That means you divide that time with regards to re-exam, cross-examination, and examination in chief. However, let's progress. Be mindful of the time. We will appropriately give instructions at that time, but be mindful of that time allocation as you proceed. Council, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, sir, members of the House, for the record, I am Kevin Mishuki, appearing for the Deputy Governor. Good afternoon, Mr. Misati.
Good afternoon to you.
I'll start you off by first inquiring. Are you a resident of Kisii County or Nyamira County?
I'm a resident of Nyamira County.
Nyamira County.
Yeah, I come from Nyamira County.
So if someone was to tell us you are a resident of Nyaribari, Chache, they would be lying.
It would be a lie.
It would be a lie.
Yes.
If Mr. Siochi, who moved the motion at the County Assembly, was to say you are a member of his ward, that would be a lie.
It will be a lie.
Okay.
Yes.
You've indicated that you are working and running businesses in Nairobi County.
Yes.
When did you move back to Kisii or to Nyamira?
After I did my interview.
No. April, March?
It was April. It was in the month of April, yeah, last year.
April 2023?
Yes.
Okay. And then when did you go and meet the DG?
I met him at his home on 28th of May.
Of May?
Yes.
And that was the first time that you met the DG or went to his place?
That was the first time that I went to his place, but I had met him several before.
Okay, at his place, this was the first time you went with your brothers
Yes.
and your father?
Yes.
Okay. How long had you been in Nairobi before that?
For a period of 13 years.
13 years?
Yes.
So since the DG came into office, you've been resident in Nairobi?
Yes.
Okay. So you cannot state how often your father visits the DG at his place?
I cannot tell.
Okay. So whether that was a regular occurrence or not, you cannot say?
Yes.
Okay. You've indicated that you were employed by a corporation known as Together as One.
Yes.
Have you provided any proof of this fact?
No.
Okay. Was the money that you utilized to invest in your salon sourced from your employment or from your gambling activities?
It was from my salon business.
Okay. So you moved to, I go back to the issue of moving to Nyamira in April. Yes?
Yeah.
This was before you learned of this job at Guasco?
After learning about the positions, when now relocated to Nyamira.
But when did you apply for this job, this particular job?
It was early April. After I made the application, I did the interview. So when I came back to Nairobi and moved back.
Okay, I'll move you to your, there's your sale agreement of your salon.
Yeah.
You can refer to that.
Yes. I remember. I can remember the date.
It's in your bundle. Not that bundle, the other bundle. Yes, when was this agreement made? When was the agreement made?
At Roy.
What page is that? You can, just for the house to be aware.
256. 256.
Okay. The agreement is dated at the bottom.
Yes.
On which date?
20th April.
20th April 2023.
Yes.
Okay. When you sold your salon, had you applied for the job?
There was a communication that the adverts will be out, so I prepared for an interview.
Had you even learned of this job at that time?
This time, yes.
Okay. I'll take you to your statement.
Yeah.
Sorry? To your statement. Refer to your statement. It's at page... Still bundle, volume number 1 of the County Assembly's bundle. It's at page 248. Yes, I'd like you to read paragraph number 6 for the House. Mr. Misati.
Sorry?
Just read it out.
Read it out. Number 6.
Yes.
That on Friday, 21st April 2023, While I was working with the company known as Together as One Microfinance as a marketer, my father brought to my attention the advertisement for job vacancies with Wasco on its website. I downloaded the advert and applied for the post of a commercial manager.
Yes, so on the 21st, when your father brings it to your attention that there's a job at Guasco, you had already made an agreement and sold your salon.
There was an earlier communication that I should prepare.
We go with what is on record.
Yes.
According to the record, you had already sold your salon.
We had made an agreement, but I had not sold the salon.
Councillor Mishuki.
An agreement to do what?
Councillor
To sell.
Mishuki, just for purposes of housekeeping and for purposes of timekeeping as well, I have indicated that you, both for purposes of the case of the County Assembly, had 4 hours allocated. We have so far done 52 minutes in examination in chief. Cross-examination so far has taken 60 minutes. We are yet to deal with re-examination. Now, going forward, Councillor Mishuki, remember, if I had Senior Counsel Katwa indicated that you will take 10 minutes, I believe you will be done hopefully in the next 5 minutes with your cross-examination, so that we embark on re-exam and rework on the timelines going forward with the remainder of the witnesses. So I'm giving you so that you close hopefully in the next 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker.
That part. Before I give you back the mic, Senator Okongo.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, you have dealt with part of the issue that I wanted to draw to your attention. We have done a number of impeachments on plenary. And Mr. Speaker, what normally happens from the chair, you give guidance to the length of time that will be spent for cross-examination. You know, this is a time-bound proceeding. We only have 2 days. If the defense is allowed to cross-examine for the entire of this evening, we will not have the benefit of taking evidence from the other witnesses. Like what is happening, Counsel Katwa did very well. He took us through the agreement. He made reference to the dates. Counsel is again taking us back to the same agreement, repeating the same questions. I plead that you give guidance for full compliance on the time that the defense should take for cross-examination so that we make progress.
Point taken, and of course you are aware from the chair, there's definitely no way the chair can intervene as to what you've just said. However, for purposes of proceeding, Councillor Mishuki, you should be closing in the next 5 minutes. We will give directives. I will give directives in your next witness. Of course, this must have been your star witness, and that's why this much time has been taken. Proceed to conclude. That
Mr. Speaker, sir, we are guided and equally guided by Senior Counsel. Mr. Misati.
Yes.
We shall move from that point and move to a quite emotive issue, it seemed. In your evidence in chief, you raised an issue that is neither in your statements or in the motion that was moved in the county assembly about your wife who was expectant having a miscarriage.
Yes, I did.
You can confirm to the House that this was not in your complaint to Honorable Siochi.
I had explained to him the
letter that we have, is it in that letter?
In the letter, it was not there.
Okay.
So
is it in the motion that was moved at the county assembly?
I'm not aware, but I thought this was more of a personal family issue.
You have raised it before this tribunal, so we have to go to it.
Yes.
Have you put before this court, this Honorable House, any documents to support this fact?
No, I haven't, because it was it took place in Kisii. I was not able to get the documents.
Can you at least give us a timeline? When did it happen?
It was August last year.
August last year?
Yes.
You've indicated that you made a statement to the EACC.
Yes, I did.
Yes. I'll take you to the follow-up that we have, the one you were referred to by Mr. Kato, just for confirmation purposes.
Yes.
There's nothing else you have placed before this tribunal or sent to Siochi with regards to the EACC?
I made the complaint when I came here around January. So when I made the complaint to EICC.
But nothing has been placed before this house? Except that follow-up letter?
It was the follow-up letter.
Okay. You also testified that Lucy Waheto was called to record a statement at EACC, according to your knowledge, yes?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Were you, on what source did you get this information? Where did you get this information from?
I made a complaint to EICC.
Where did you get the information that Lucy had been called to EACC to record a statement?
Through the communication I got from EICC.
You got a communication from
EICC?
EACC?
There's a lady who called me after I submitted my
What was this lady called? It's another unknown person?
I cannot remember the exact name, but...
So another nameless unknown person from EACC. We move to the money that you paid. The transactions happened on the 28th of May.
Yes.
Was this before or after you were shortlisted?
It was after.
It was after you were shortlisted?
Yeah.
Was this before or after you were interviewed?
It was after I was interviewed.
Okay.
Yes.
So you were making a bribe to engage a process that had already occurred?
Earlier on, I did not call it a bribe.
Or a facilitation for you to
Yes,
facilitate a process that had already occurred? Okay. The nod should go on record. You have noted
Means
yes.
yes.
Okay.
Means yes, yeah.
That must be your conclusion, right?
Mr. Speaker, sir, give me just some leeway, 2 questions.
I'd given you 5 minutes, Council.
They're almost, I can see a few seconds.
Yes, that's why I'm telling you that must be your last question.
Mr. Misati.
Yes, sir.
You explained that the reason you went with your father to this meeting was to act as a witness to the facilitation fee being paid.
Yes.
Okay. Were your brothers, who you say were also there,
Yes.
also witnesses?
This was my money. This was my...
No,
yes.
I'm not asking you whose money it was. Were your brother also witnesses to this facilitation fee?
Yes, they
payment?
were present, yeah.
They were?
Yeah.
Have you called any of them as your witnesses to support that fact?
I haven't.
You haven't?
Yes.
Okay. You're afraid they'll say something different?
Sorry?
You're afraid they'll say something different? Or they'll side with your father and say that was his money?
I don't know the communication, but I took it personal, on a personal level.
Last question.
Yeah.
The follow-up that we discussed from the EACC at page 16 of the DG's bundle. Page 16, 16.
Yes.
You can see that letter?
Yes.
When was it received at the EACC?
It was written on 20th February.
20th February of which year?
2024, this year.
Of this year?
Yes.
After the motion had already been moved at the county assembly?
It was before.
A motion was not placed at the county assembly on the 13th?
You cannot tell the...
You cannot tell the particulars of...
issues, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Misati.
Okay.
Very well. Mr. Ndegwa.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Now we need to guide in terms of time. How much time do you need for...
Mr. Speaker, sir, for re-examination, I'll only take we'll take cumulatively a total of about 6 minutes.
6 minutes?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Proceed, then we'll guide on the subsequent witnesses.
Dennis, you recall being asked a question why your mother was sending the money to you, yes?
Yes, I remember.
And you have heard the allegation that this was a debt that was being paid, yes?
Yes.
And you've also confirmed that Mr. the deputy governor and your father had the traditions of sending money to each other previously, yes?
Yeah.
Were you involved in those transactions before?
No, I wasn't.
You only confirm that this is the only transaction that you are involved?
Yeah, this was the first and the only one I was involved in.
And confirm that the purpose for which you are involved is because you are so the matter related directly to you in search of a job, yes?
Yes.
Confirm that the facilitation fee was sought by one deputy governor, yes?
Yes.
Further confirm that it is your father who told you that the deputy governor has placed a demand for purposes of securing that job, yes?
Yes.
Further confirm that it is your father who told you to send the 200,000 shillings to Mr. Monda, yes?
Yes, he's the one.
Further confirm that during the time at which you sent or the transaction was commenced, the recruitment for that post had not occurred, yes?
Yes.
You have been asked and taken through the statement about the gambling, yes?
Yes.
Did the gambling come before you sold the salon or after you sold the salon?
It was after.
After you sold the salon?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And that is a confirmation that one Mr. Monda rendered you destitute, yes?
Yes, it's true.
I'll take you, then I yield to Mr. Mutuma. Honorable Senators, I am referring to our bundle of documents, the Big Book, Volume 1, page 189. And as they open page 189, you recall a question was put to you as between the deputy governor and your father who approached who, yes?
Yes.
Are you there at page 189?
Yes, sir. I'm there.
Can you see where we have Mr. Katwa Kigen asking questions?
Yes.
And where we have the Honorable Deputy Governor answering?
Yes.
I want you to read the paragraph that begins, Mr. Speaker, just as a good friend, Mr. Joseph Misati and I, somewhere in April, I was made to know that there is an advert. Can you read that paragraph?
So it reads, Mr. Speaker, just as good friends.
Mr. Speaker, sir, that is the Hansons for 29th of February 2023 that took place at the County Assembly of Kisii. What is the Deputy Governor saying in that statement?
Mr. Speaker, just as good friends, Mr. Joseph Misati and I, somewhere in April, I was made to know that there is an advert that has come up at Wasco, and Misati as a friend could ask me that his son has also tendered his application. Is it possible for him to be assisted to get a good job, to get a job? Yes.
Who is making that averment? Is it your father, is it you, or the deputy governor?
This is the deputy governor.
Is he confirming that he was involved in search of that job in your favor?
Yes.
Is he confirming that Mr. Misati, that your father, is the one who approached him for purpose of that job?
Yes.
The issue of reference of the word son, who is being referred to in these circumstances?
I'm the son.
You are the son.
Yes.
You are put to task to explain why you cried, and you said that you cried because of your money, yes?
Yes.
Is there any other reason that made you cry?
Yes, I lost my baby.
You lost your baby?
Yes.
While you are at that stand, Mr. Dennis, you heard the speaker directing that the sergeant at Hamdas take charge of another cry that came to the gallery, yes? And I'm sorry for that, Mr.
Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, in your directions for re-examination, the direction is that re-examination be targeted at issues that were canvassed in the evidence in chief. We did not make any reference of anybody in the gallery or the sergeant at arms, and I think that issue should not be introduced.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Very well, Mr. Ndegwa.
With due respect to senior counsel, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you may.
Listen, the chair is on the mic. Guide your witness, do proper exam. You are a practitioner.
Mr. Speaker, but I believe counsel, having practiced for many years, and I have, he knows that facts in issue or facts not in issue can become an issue. And there's a question as why the cry. Dennis, I am sorry for that ordeal. Do you connect the loss of your child by any means to the proceedings or to whatever happened between you and the deputy governor?
Yes, I do.
Finally, Dennis, as I yield. At the time the deputy governor sought for this money, had recruitment been made?
Not yet.
When was the interview?
The interview was 25th May.
When was the recruitment?
It was done later, around August, September.
Around July, yes?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to Mr. Mutuma.
Thank you, my learned friend, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the opportunity. I have 3 questions. One, Mr. Dennis Misati, during the cross-examination, you were put to task to explain why in your statement you said that money was transacted from your father's M-Pesa to the deputy governor's M-Pesa, yet evidence shows that it came from Cooperative Bank. Can you explain whether this transaction was mobile banking transaction or was it a direct withdrawal from Cooperative Bank? What was the nature of that transaction?
I think it was a mobile banking transaction.
Mobile banking transaction. Yes. So that then, whether it was from M-Pesa or not, it is your father's gadget that was used to transact?
Yes, it was my father's, yes.
Thank you. You've also been accused of being a criminal who bribes.
Yes.
Offering a bribe is a crime.
Yeah.
What motivated you to offer what now you're calling facilitation? Was it because you had a criminal mentality, or what was the motivating factor? What drove you to give the 800,000 shillings?
It was the urgency to get a decent employment. Like any other youth out there, we always hope for the best. And if we get a decent employment, it means the betterment of the family.
Thank you. Finally, you have been accused of being a gambler. And we have seen occasionally you've gambled and spent a negligible amount of money in gambling. Is it in your nature to gamble?
No.
What led you to begin gambling?
It was due to hard life, hard times. So it was a means of trying another luck.
A source of livelihood?
Yes.
Thank you. And that will be all, Mr. Speaker, sir. And we wish to dispense with this witness at this moment and call our next witness.
Witness, you may, yes, Sifuna.
And unless, of course, the honorable senators have a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Council, before you do, we have a few interventions. Mr. Speaker, I wanted some clarity on 2 issues, and this concern is addressed to Senior Counsel Katwa Kigen. Katwa, could you tell me what conclusions you wanted me as a senator to draw, this House to draw, from that cross-examination on the witness's gambling history? And secondly, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to know from the defense whether there was an admission, or there is an admission, or it is the position of the defense that in fact a crime was committed and therefore the witness is a criminal.
Before Senior Counsel Katwa responds to that, if there are any clarifications honorable members would want to get from the respective councils, we will limit per person 2 minutes. So I'll limit any such clarification to 2 minutes so that we keep time and we program as we go ahead. Senior Counsel Katwa.
The two questions that have been put to me is what inference we pray that the Senate draws based on the data on the gambling. All we are asking honorable members is to treat the testimony of the complainant with circumspection. We would want you to take what he says with an amount of caution that is not necessarily saying the truth. And that from where he has come, he is inclined to get things for free and cheaply. On the question of whether the question of him having admitted a crime means we are admitting a crime, we are saying we are not making any admissions. We are merely saying that in the quest that he has put in his letter of complaint, he is so determined to have the deputy governor punished to a point that he's prepared to incriminate himself and make an admission of having committed a crime, provided he's ready to shoot his foot, provided he gets the deputy governor punished. That is the sense in which we are raising the point of his admission of the crime. Of course, we are also saying that you should treat him with circumspection. I hope I have answered the question. Thank you.
Senator Onyonga Eric? Richard, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a question I just wanted to ask the young gentleman. It came to me that all the transactions you were making are all actually done at night. Was there a reason why that was the case?
Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Governor called us at his home. It was called around 7, heading to 8. That's when we got from home so that we can go to his home place. We sat there until 9 p.m. That's when we left his home.
All right, Senator Joe Newt is not in. Senator Halwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is to Senior Counsel Katwa. Counsel, the witness has attempted to demonstrate the facilitation of 800,000. And you have challenged the witness and given the impression that he was involved in criminal activity. Counsel, can you help me? If you want me to believe that by dint of that suggestion, the witness was a criminal, are you therefore admitting that the recipient, Deputy Governor, is equally criminally implicated?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I think that's the question that my learned friend, Honorable Sifuna, had asked, and our answer remains the same. Our position is that the 500,000 was a refund. Our position is that there is no relationship between the payment that was remitted to Dr. Monda and any allegation of bribery. It is our position that there is such a concerted effort to impeach and damage the name of the Deputy Governor that the witness is prepared to incriminate himself if that is the only measure that would need to be taken for the Deputy Governor to be punished. And therefore, the possibility is that he has not committed that crime, that he doesn't believe in the bribery, but because it is the only way that it can achieve the punishment of the deputy governor, he is prepared, therefore, to say that I have actually committed a crime so that it places the matter before you. We are not making any admission of any wrongdoing on our part. I hope I have answered your question, Honorable.
Very well. Take your seat, Senior Counsel Katwa. Senator Wambua.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will stay with that line of questioning. Supposing, Senior Counsel Katwa Keegan, supposing there's an admission on the part of the witness that indeed he actually participated in a criminal activity, would that absolve the deputy governor from the liability of a similar crime? And secondly, you said the reason why you're pushing the line of gambling is to demonstrate before this House that the witness cannot be relied on and that he has a history of using easy ways to get money. Is it then your admission, Senior Counsel, that we are not, or we should never expect to hear any